Chapter 1269. The spicy and salt flood snake meat was a dish made from a one-star beast saint, which contained abundant energy and essence energy. After being grilled at a high temperature, the meat became curly, crisp, and delicious. After sprinkling the salt and pepper that Bufang had prepared, as well as all kinds of spices, the aroma reached the heavens. It was like a dusty treasure that was suddenly dusted off, blooming with a dazzling brilliance that could shake people's hearts. Boom! Rumble! Thunder clouds rolled over in the sky. Bufang raised his head, looking at the familiar thunder clouds. His face didn't change at all. It had been a long time since he had encountered thunder clouds. Unfortunately, Xiao Bai was still sleeping, so he couldn't help him resist the lightning punishment. Otherwise, after Xiao Bai swallowed the lightning punishment, Xiao Bai's strength would increase tremendously. Previously, the dishes that Bufang had cooked in the competition could only be considered snacks, so they hadn't triggered the lightning punishment. But now, the dish that the little saint was testing was a complete dish. Naturally, it would trigger the lightning punishment. Moreover, it wouldn't be an ordinary lightning punishment. Whether it was the ingredients or the cooking skills, they were all top-notch. For this dish, Bufang had put his heart and soul into it. The oppressive thunder clouds in the sky continued to spread and disperse. However, Bufang didn't raise his head to look at the sky. Instead, he reached out his chopsticks, picking up a piece of snake meat and putting it in his mouth. As soon as it entered his mouth, the salty taste of salt and pepper spread in his mouth. The snake meat's warm texture seemed to wrap his mouth. With the impact of the snake meat's essence energy, Bufang's eyes brightened at this moment. He gently bit down. A clear cracking sound rang out. The snake meat was instantly bitten into pieces, and steam rose up. The almost perfect texture caused Bufang's body to tremble slightly. The taste of salt and pepper stimulated his taste buds, increasing his appetite. And the tender snake meat and the fragrant taste made him unable to stop himself. Bufang nodded. This dish was really good. He originally wanted to make snake meat soup, but now it seemed that salt and pepper snake meat was much better than snake meat soup. In fact, when the snake meat was made into snake meat soup, apart from the delicious soup, the taste of the snake meat was actually not that good. It was incomparable to salt and pepper snake meat. This was also the reason why Bufang had chosen the salt and pepper snake meat after much consideration. In the distance, the experts of the Dragon Heaven Realm had long since widened their eyes. The fragrance that filled the air caused him to involuntarily swallow his saliva. It was truly too fragrant. Moreover, looking at the way Bufang was eating, he couldn't help but want to try it. It wasn't just him. Even the audience who saw this scene through the projection array was in an uproar. It looks delicious. This guy killed a one-star sacred beast. Could it be that he really did it just to satisfy his desire for good food? A chef is indeed a chef. For the sake of eating, he killed a beast saint. Everyone was shocked by Bufang's behavior. They couldn't understand Bufang's behavior. After all, they were in the middle of a competition, but he actually had the leisure to look for ingredients to cook. This was simply crazy. Rustle in the distance, the leaves rustled. The Dragon Heaven Realm expert, who was attracted by Bufang's food, suddenly felt his heart collapse. He turned his head and looked over with a vigilant look in his eyes. In the shadow of the dense forest, a figure slowly emerged. With a swoosh, a pair of white and holy wings spread out from his back, making people feel very comfortable. An expert from the Winged Man Valley had actually arrived. It smells so good. If it weren't for this fragrance, I really wouldn't have found this place. The Winged Man Valley expert was wearing a white jade mask, and he was smiling. His eyes were fixed on the Dragon Heaven Realm expert. After all, he had come here to track this expert. Obediently hand over the jade plate in your hand. You and I are good neighbors, why must you kill each other over a jade plate? The Winged Man Valley expert said with a gentle smile. His voice seemed to be full of charm. Scram! Hypocritical birdman! The Dragon Heaven Realm expert's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he let out a roar. Kacha kacha. Their conversation naturally did not affect Bufang. Bufang picked up the snake meat and continued stuffing it into his mouth. The Winged Man Valley expert also saw Bufang, and his eyes flashed with coldness. Little chef, you're actually here. You didn't die. Looks like they failed and let you escape. But you're very unlucky to have met me, so this time, you won't be able to escape, Bufang said. The Winged Man Valley expert retracted his wings, causing feathers to flutter in the air. Rumble! There was a thunderous roar. The experts from the Winged Man Valley and the Dragon's celestial realm couldn't help but raise their heads and look at the sky covered by the dense forest. Their expressions were a little strange. The Winged Man Valley expert's words did not affect Bufang's mood at all. However, the faces of the experts who saw this scene through the projection array were very strange. Young man, this little chef didn't run away, Bufang said. He killed a Winged Man Valley expert and an Abyss expert. Emotienga said. I can already hear the sound of this Winged Man Valley expert's wings being torn. Through the projection array, they could clearly see the activities of many contestants, but the contestants didn't know what was happening. The last piece of snake meat entered his mouth. Bufang's eyes narrowed. Bufang didn't pay any attention to the Winged Man Valley expert in front of him. In his mind, the system's solemn and serious voice resounded. Evaluating the dish of the Little Saint's test. Dish evaluation completed. Systems evaluation, advanced. Congratulations, host, for passing the Little Saint's test. Buzz. The system's words made the corner of Bufang's mouth twitch slightly. After so long, he finally completed the Little Saint's test. Rumble. Above the sky, the thunderclouds suddenly rolled. The terrible pressure of the dark clouds pressing down on the city shocked the experts from the Winged Man Valley and the Dragon's celestial realm. A thunderclap rang out, and the whole forest seemed to be wrapped in a dazzling light. Suddenly, a blue lightning dragon poured down from the thunderclouds and bombarded Bufang. The Winged Man Valley expert was taken aback. Tribulation Transcendence? The experts who saw this scene through the light screen were also shocked. The pupils of many Little Saint experts constricted. Tribulation Transcendence? This was not strange to them. It was necessary to transcend tribulation from the true immortal realm to the saint realm. And the stronger one was, the more terrifying the lightning tribulation he had to transcend. According to his talent, the lightning tribulation could be divided into 3 stages, 6 stages, and 9 stages. Each stage was more terrifying than the last. This fool is transcending tribulation here? He will be extremely weak after transcending the tribulation. How can he stop me? The eyes of the Winged Man Valley expert flashed. With a flap of his wings, he suddenly landed in the distance. The experts from the Dragon's celestial realm were almost desperate. By transcending tribulation at this time, Bufang had almost forced himself into a desperate situation. Transcending tribulation? Bufang was also a little confused. He felt the roar of the thunderclouds. It seemed a little strange. Was he experiencing the dish's lightning tribulation or the Little Saint's? Rumble! Suddenly, up in the sky, the blue lightning suddenly changed color and turned purple. It was a purple lightning dragon, glowing with purple light and ghastly purple. It was like a lightning tribulation compressed to the extreme, extremely terrifying. If someone saw the clouds above the forest at this moment, he would be shocked. Because at this moment there were actually 2 vortexes spinning in the clouds. The lightning punishment that came from the thunderclouds gathered together and turned into a purple lightning dragon. Its power seemed to shatter the void. A purple lightning dragon? Everyone was dumbfounded. They had never seen something like this before. At the source of the Acheron River, a low dragon roar resounded. A huge sleeping beast suddenly raised its head. Its eyes were like blood-red candlelight that was slowly burning. The air that came out of its mouth and nose seemed to be able to overturn mountains. The giant beast looked into the distance at the swirling vortexes in the distance. In the valley, a figure slowly floated over, holding a green blade of grass in his hand as he squinted and looked into the distance. Standing where he was, Bufang's vermilion robe seemed to be stimulated by the lightning tribulation. It turned crimson, and two flaming wings spread out behind him. Bufang's hair fluttered rapidly. With the completion of the Little Saint's test, Bufang's cultivation base naturally stepped into the Little Saint realm. His eyes focused. His mind sank into his spirit sea. At this moment, his spirit sea had undergone earth-shattering changes. A whirlpool actually appeared on the surface of his spirit sea, which was originally ordinary and unremarkable. As the vortex spun, mental force swirled in it, causing Bufang's aura to rise. Is this the so-called first cycle Little Saint? Bufang's eyes narrowed slightly. In the sky, the divine will phantom spirit, sitting cross-legged, turned into a beam of light and landed in the spirit sea's vortex. Energy continuously flowed into the divine sense phantom from the vortex, causing the originally blurry divine sense phantom to gradually become clearer. The Little Saint realm is divided into 9 cycles. That means this vortex spun 9 times. In the distance, the vermilion bird and the golden divine dragon stared at the vortex, their eyes shining. The little host had finally reached the Little Saint realm. His cultivation base was rising, and the difficulties he would encounter in the future would be even more terrifying. They wondered if the little host could endure it. Boom! Bufang opened his eyes and raised his head. Raising his head, the oppressive wind blew against his hair, causing it to flutter continuously. The thunder dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws, tearing the sky apart. The purple thunder dragon was reflected in everyone's eyes, making them suck in a cold breath. The bandage on Bufang's arm disappeared in an instant, and his Taotai arm emerged. Yin and Yang intertwined. Facing the thunder dragon, Bufang raised his fist. Lunatic! He's using his body to resist this lightning punishment. The Winged Man Valley expert looked at Bufang as if he was looking at a fool. Just by looking at the fluctuations and pressure coming from the lightning dragon, he felt a sense of dread. I can't believe this little chef is going to resist it with his body. If he's not a lunatic, what is he? Now, let's see how the little chef is blown to pieces by the lightning punishment. Boom! Blasts of air rolled and exploded. The lightning arcs were so stimulating that the Winged Man Valley experts and the Dragon's Celestial Realm experts felt a stinging pain in their cheeks, and their pupils constricted. Soon, however, they all sucked in a cold breath. Bufang stood where he was, yin and yang energy intertwined around his Taotai arm. He was unscathed as if he had blown up the lightning with a punch. Bufang narrowed his eyes as he felt waves of numbness coursing through his body. When these two types of lightning punishments were mixed together, it actually caused his physical body to strengthen. Perhaps this was the so-called baptism of advancement. Bufang stood where he was. Boom! Boom! Then, the lightning punishments fell one after another. The thunder dragon, on the other hand, was shattered by Bufang's punches. 1 lightning punishment, 2 lightning punishments. The crowd was a little numb. As for Bufang himself, he was panting a little. If only he could have Xiao Bai's lightning-eating technique, 3 lightning punishments. This was not the end. When the 6 lightning punishments appeared, everyone was dumbfounded. However, 6 lightning punishments were not the end. When the 9 lightning punishments appeared, everyone was petrified. 9 lightning punishments, just how monstrous was this little chef? He was comparable to the top geniuses of Nether Prison. Even the top geniuses of Nether Prison, ranging from half-step saints to 1 revolution little saint, might not be able to attract 9 lightning punishments. The light screen shone brightly. Outside the light screen, a group of people's jaws almost dropped to the ground. Suddenly, the radiance in the light screen dissipated. Gradually, an image appeared. Bufang stood where he was, his hands hanging at his sides, panting. beads of sweat slid down his face and fell to the ground. In the distance, the experts of the Winged Man Valley and the Dragon's celestial realm were stunned. Suddenly, the pupils of the Winged Man Valley expert constricted. He fixed his eyes on Bufang, and his aura exploded out of him. In the next moment, the pair of wings on his back spread out. Feathers fluttered in the air as he shot toward Bufang like a white afterimage. "I'll kill you while you're weak. You must be very weak after transcending the 9 lightning punishments. It's time to kill you." A crazy look came into the eyes of the Winged Man Valley expert. 9 lightning punishments. A genius who could transcend this kind of lightning punishment would be a nightmare for the Winged Man Valley if he was allowed to live. Therefore, he had to be killed. Bufang felt very weak now. He had resisted the lightning punishments with his own strength, which was a lot of pressure for him. He was so tired that he couldn't even keep his eyes open. The sudden attack of the Winged Man Valley expert brought everyone back to their senses and cursed him for being despicable. The Dragon's celestial realm expert unleashed his aura and gritted his teeth, trying to resist the Winged Man Valley expert. Unfortunately, he was already seriously injured, so how could he resist the attack? He was seriously injured by the Winged Man Valley expert, coughing up blood and flying backward. A slender sword appeared in the Winged Man Valley expert's hand, and he thrust it at Bufang's head. "Die! So what if you transcend the 9 lightning punishments? No matter how talented you are, you'll still die in my hands," the Winged Man Valley expert sneered. His killing intent surged. Bufang lowered his head, raised his eyelids slightly, and glanced at the Winged Man Valley expert, who was surging with killing intent. He exhaled softly. "What an annoying fly. Little Gold, come out and get some fresh air. Remember, rip off his wings for me." Chapter 1270. Using his fleshly body to resist the 9 lightning punishments, which were the combination of the purple lightning punishment from the dish and the lightning punishment from his cultivation base, was a great pressure for him. Even with Bufang's mental force, he was exhausted from dealing with the lightning that poured into his body. He had to constantly transform the lightning power into energy that could enhance his physical strength. Therefore, Bufang was very tired at the moment, and his eyelids almost drooped. At this time, the Winged Man Valley expert actually launched an attack. He wanted to kill Bufang before he recovered. He was taking advantage of Bufang's precarious situation. Naturally, Bufang was annoyed by this. Perhaps the Winged Man Valley expert was shocked by his purple lightning punishment and realized that if he allowed Bufang to grow up, he might become a very terrifying existence. Therefore, he wanted to kill Bufang at this time. However, he didn't realize that his move had completely enraged Bufang. On the light screen, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw this. Naturally, they were shocked by Bufang's 9 lightning punishments, which made their minds tremble uncontrollably. Secondly, they were shocked by the Winged Man Valley expert's attack. Naturally, they felt contemptuous of him. This was taking advantage of Bufang's precarious situation. However, they couldn't deny that if they allowed a genius who could withstand 9 lightning punishments to grow up, it would be a disaster for them. The Winged Man Valley expert naturally couldn't accept such a disaster, so he took the initiative to attack. Taking advantage of the fact that Bufang had just survived the lightning punishment and was still weak, the Winged Man Valley expert attacked first. He wanted to kill Bufang on the spot. As soon as he attacked, he used his strongest means. The experts of the Heaven Chief realm all roared angrily. They clenched their fists and stared at the light screen, watching the battle on it. Under the attack of a top first stage little saint, could Owner Bu still create a miracle? No one knew, and no one had any confidence. For Bufang, who had just passed the thunder punishment, this was almost a hopeless situation, a situation where he was forced to the brink of death. Everyone knew that they were at their weakest after passing the lightning punishment. At this time, How could the great demon resist the winged man valley experts? Bufang's head drooped, his arms hanging down, and his eyes seemed a little gloomy. His muscles were trembling slightly, as if there were streaks of lightning coursing through them. Buzz, suddenly. Bufang's aura suddenly changed. The winged man valley cultivator's attack came to a halt. Bufang's hair changed color. Bits of resplendent gold began to spread, and soon, Bufang's black hair turned golden at a speed visible to the naked eye. Her dazzling golden hair fluttered in the air. Blonde hair? The winged man valley expert was stunned because all of them had blonde hair. However, Bufang's blonde hair was a little different from theirs. Their golden hair could be considered yellow, but Bufang's golden hair was King real gold. Bufang, who had his eyes drooped, suddenly raised his head. Roar! There seemed to be an invisible dragon roar resounding through the air. The winged man valley expert's pupils constricted, and he felt a chill run down his spine. He felt as if he was being stared at by a peerless monster. He punched. The phantom of a golden dragon suddenly emerged. He let out a long roar and soared into the sky. The winged man valley expert's body tightened as if he was completely bound by a terrible force. He felt so uncomfortable that he almost vomited blood. That feeling, it was as if there were chains binding his body. At such a critical moment, little host actually thinks of me, Nicholas the handsome dragon. Sure enough, this handsome dragon is little host's true love. He raised his head, opened his mouth, and let out a long roar. Blonde-haired Bufang threw out a punch and laughed heartily. His laughter shook the sky. Boom! The winged man valley expert's pupils constricted. He was knocked flying backward by the punch without being able to resist. His white feathers fluttered in the air as he was sent flying like a cannonball. He crashed into the ground in the distance at high speed. The impact caused the ground to collapse deeply. Puff! The winged man valley expert coughed up blood. His slender sword fell into the distance. How is this possible? A punch, he was knocked flying backward without any resistance. In the face of that punch, he felt as if he was facing his captain. How was this possible? Their captain was a second-stage little saint. Didn't this little chef just break through to the little saint realm? His first-stage mental force vortex hadn't even stabilized yet. How could he exert such powerful strength? Or was this the strength of a genius who had passed the 9-revolution lightning punishment? Blonde Bufang grinned and rubbed his golden hair with both hands, a hint of joy in his eyes. Birdman! How dare you attack me, Nicholas the handsome dragon, my most beloved little host? Do you think you have too many feathers? Little host said the chicken wings on your back no longer belong to you. Said blonde Bufang, grinning. This is not a chicken wing. This is sacred feather. The sacred feather of the winged man valley. The winged man valley expert roared, his eyes almost popping out of their socket. Sacred feather? In my eyes, what's the difference between that and a chicken wing? Blonde Bufang twitched his mouth. Let me tell you, when it comes to chicken wings, little host's cooking level is not high. Although he knows how to roast, fry, and braise. In fact, the best is braised chicken wings. I've tasted super delicious braised chicken wings. At that time, I was still following this little host. I remember that the chicken wings were made with the wings of a birdman who claimed to be a god just like you. That birdman had 6 pairs of 12 wings. TSK, TSK, TSK. Every pair was roasted golden and fragrant. Blonde Bufang's eyes lit up. In his spirit sea, Bufang glanced at Vermilion Bird, somewhat speechless. Apart from being narcissistic, this guy is also a chatterbox? Bufang said expressionlessly. He's not really a chatterbox. Maybe he's been holding it in for too long and his brain is damaged. Vermilion Bird rolled her eyes. Bufang twitched the corner of his mouth. He didn't want to say anything more and just let Divine Dragon do whatever he wanted. He had to hurry up and restore his mental force. Under the nourishment of lightning, His body was constantly growing stronger, and his mental force was about to soar. In the spirit vortex, the divine will phantom spirit was constantly absorbing energy. Meanwhile, Bufang sat cross-legged in midair with his eyes closed. Vermilion Bird saw Bufang enter a state of recovery. She turned to look at White Tiger. "Old White, you should remember the roasted chicken wings the stupid dragon mentioned, right? They're the wings of a real god. We're beasts who have eaten the wings of a god," Vermilion Bird said, fluttering her feathers. "Chicken wings? I forgot," White Tiger said proudly, lying on one side. After saying that, he stuck out his tongue and licked his lip. "Enough. You're the one who has chicken wings. Your whole family is made of chicken wings." The Winged Man Valley expert flew into a rage. He jumped to his feet, his aura skyrocketing. Suddenly, a long, slender sword appeared in his hand. "Oh, you want to compete with me? It's a pity that I don't have a sword. Otherwise, I'll kill you with my sword in 10 minutes. Blonde Bufang said regretfully. Then, a golden dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand. Swinging the dragon bone kitchen knife, Blonde Bufang grinned like a hooligan. Aurora Sword of Judgment. The Winged Man Valley expert's blonde hair fluttered in the wind. The next moment, the mask on his face shattered, revealing a handsome face. The Winged Man Valley's experts were either handsome or beautiful. This was a well-known fact in the surrounding world. However, one couldn't eat good looks, especially in front of Nicholas the Handsome Dragon. This guy hated people who were more handsome than him the most. Judgment? Blonde Bufang stared at the Winged Man Valley expert's handsome face. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a streak of golden afterimages. The next moment, when he reappeared, he was already in front of the Winged Man Valley expert. A knife light slashed down. As if cutting tofu, the slender sword in the Winged Man Valley expert's hand was cut in half. A clang rang out. The broken blade fell to the ground. The Winged Man Valley expert froze. His aura also dissipated. The Winged Man Valley's peerless technique was cut in half before they could use it. This sword was a supreme-grade immortal tool. You! The Winged Man Valley expert's eyes widened. The next moment, he saw the golden kitchen knife spin. It was as if a divine dragon was flying across the sky. The Winged Man Valley expert howled miserably. With 2 slashes, the pair of white wings on his back was cut off. Blonde Bufang grabbed the wings, which were dyed red with blood, and grinned. Tisk, tsk, tsk. Sure enough, the quality is much worse, but it can barely be considered an ingredient. This handsome dragon will help little host collect an ingredient, but I have a feeling that little host will dislike it. After saying that, Blonde Bufang put the wings into the system's storage space. Dripping with blood, the Winged Man Valley expert staggered back. At this moment, he understood that he was no match for the man in front of him. He was like a fish on a chopping block. You're really ugly now. You're not as handsome as me. I told you, I can kill you with my sword. Bufang shook his head. The next moment, he raised a hand and flicked a finger on the Winged Man's forehead. Boom! The Winged Man Valley expert's eyes widened, and he was sent flying backward. Roar! Waves of terrifying aura spread out from the dense forest. In the dense forest, a white spider thread suddenly shot over, turned into a slender spear, and instantly pierced the Winged Man Valley expert's body. With a ripping sound, blood spilled. Then, one spider thread after another shot out and completely enveloped the Winged Man Valley expert. Help! Help me! In the depths of the forest, a huge furry spider flew over and approached in a flash. Hiss! The spider suddenly turned over, revealing a beautiful human face. With a ferocious look on her face, she withdrew the spider thread. The Winged Man Valley expert was pressed under the spider's body and kept being bitten. Clatter, 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 one spider thread after another shot toward the expert. Then, one by one, the spiders wrapped around the surrounding trees. The spider threads bounced gently. The next moment, a swarm of furry spiders crawled out of the forest. Each spider had the face of a beautiful woman, ferocious and terrifying. Suddenly, a terrible aura filled the forest. This is a swarm of beauty spiders. The dragon's celestial realm expert felt a chill run down his spine. He immediately despaired. He couldn't believe that he had encountered a swarm of beauty spiders. He was doomed. There was still a beautiful spider emperor among the group of beautiful spiders, and it was a 2-star sacred beast. It was said that every step in Earth prison was fraught with danger, and now it seemed that it was true. On the light screen, everyone felt a chill run down their spine when they saw the winged man valley expert being eaten by the beauty spiders. Through the light screen, when they saw the spider beauties appearing one after another, they all cried out in alarm, their eyes filled with horror. "It's over. We're dead. The beauty spiders are the killers of Earth Prison's forest. Even a second-class little saint will die if he encounters them." Everyone gasped in shock and gasped. Blonde Bufong wiped the dragon bone kitchen knife and narrowed his eyes. He glanced thoughtfully at the spiders around him, then at the huge black serpent's body and the red flood dragon spirit fruit swaying in the distance. These beauty spiders should have been attracted by the black serpent's body and the spirit fruit. Savage beasts had their own territories. After the black serpent was killed by the little host, its territory lost its dominating aura and naturally became a delicious steamed bun in the eyes of the surrounding savage beast. "What a pity! In front of Nicholas the handsome dragon, you ugly things are all trash." Blonde Bufong flicked his blonde hair and said with a deep look in his eyes. Crack, crack, white bones scattered all over the ground. The beauty spiders, who had eaten the winged man valley expert, suddenly raised their heads. A hissing sound rang out. Then, their killing intent locked onto Blonde Bufong. Dozens of huge beauty spiders immediately turned into streams of light, jumped on the spider's silk, and swooped down on Blonde Bufong. The Dragon Heaven Realm expert's legs went soft, and he fell to the ground with a look of despair. He had lost all hope. In the face of a swarm of spiders, he could only die. Suddenly, the experts from the Dragon Heaven Realm were taken aback. Outside the light screen, everyone looked as if they had seen a ghost. In the dense forest, Blonde Bufong, who was covered by countless spiders, suddenly burst out laughing. The next moment, Blonde Bufong burst into laughter. The next moment, beams of golden light burst out of the gaps covered by the spiders. In the void, suddenly, the phantom of a golden divine dragon emerged. The divine dragon hovered in the shadow of a knife. The knife slashed down. One by one, the spiders screamed and burst into pieces. A gust of wind swept up, and the dragon's might was matchless. Blonde Bufong's face was blurred. He stroked his golden hair and exhaled softly. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he said in a deep voice, "Remember the name of the expert who killed you. Nicholas the Handsome Dragon." Chapter 1271. They were dumbfounded. Everyone was shocked. How did he do it? Those were a group of Spider Bell. Even a 2-stage professional little saint would have a hard time being surrounded by so many Spider Bell, but the little chef had killed his way out. His knife came down. One by one, the Spider Bell was cut in half by the knife energy. Only the Spider Bell, who had devoured the winged man valley expert, escaped with serious injuries. What happened just now? Everyone seemed a little confused. It was obviously a dead end, so why did the little chef solve it so easily? And who the hell was Nicholas the Handsome Dragon? Who gave him such a retarded name? Blonde-haired Bufong killed almost all the Spider Bell with one knife attack. He stood where he was, his blonde hair fluttering in the wind, his hands on his hips, and a faint smile on his face. His appearance caused everyone, who was originally in a state of shock, to return to their senses. Strange expressions appeared on their faces. Was this still the expressionless and indifferent little chef they knew? Where was his poker face? His mouth is almost crooked from smiling. They felt that their understanding of Bufong had been completely changed. At this time, many people also concluded that as long as Bufang's hair color changed, his character would also change. Black-haired Bufang, expressionless, indifferent, and silent. White-haired Bufang, arrogant, cold, and murderous. Blonde-haired Bufang, a narcissistic fool, and a brainless one at that. Nicholas the handsome dragon. His taste had become so low. The corpses on the ground exuded a strong aura of death, enveloping the whole area in a murderous aura. Buzz, blonde-haired Bufang's hair slowly changed. His laughter came to an abrupt end, and then a dejected look came over his face. "Why don't you let my beauty stay in this world a little longer?" As soon as he finished speaking, his blonde hair turned black. Her temperament also became cold and aloof. Bufang exhaled softly. He raised his hand and rubbed his stiff face. The golden divine dragon, that clown, was always laughing. Even the muscles on his face were not used to it. Bufang's mind power had recovered quite a bit. He could feel a strong aura slowly spreading over his body. Buzz, in the eyes of the experts of the Dragon Heaven Realm, Bufang's aura suddenly stepped into the First Revolution Little Saint Realm from the Half-Step Saint Realm and stabilized. Bufang clasped his hands behind his back and glanced at the corpses on the ground. He frowned. Zhang Xian thought. He threw the Winged Man Valley expert's wings to the ground. He didn't like this ingredient. After all, he was a human. Although the experts of the Winged Man Valley were birdmen, they were still humans. If their wings were made into dishes, Bufang would feel disgusted. Do you still want to continue? You're currently heavily injured. If you continue forward, it'll be very difficult for you to survive. Bufang glanced at the experts from the Dragon Heaven Realm and said. The expert from the Dragon Heaven Realm took a deep look at Bufang. He rose to his feet and clutched his chest. His hand shook. Immediately, a white jade plate appeared in his hand. He handed it to Bufang and said, "I'll give this jade plate to you. Thank you for saving my life. I give up this match. I hope you can go to the end." Bufang expressionlessly glanced at the Dragon Heavenly Realm expert, then nodded his head. He took the jade plate. This jade plate was also white. It was not a pair with his, so it was not very useful to Bufang. But it was better than nothing. He put away the jade plate. The expert from the Dragon Heaven Realm took a deep look at Bufang. The latter glanced at the corpses around him and let out a deep breath. Then, he shot out and disappeared into the dense forest. The expert from the Dragon Heaven Realm left. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bufang slowly paced on the ground for a while. He picked the Flood Dragon Spirit Fruit and transplanted it into the Heaven and Earth farmland. The snake-type spirit beasts treat this thing like a treasure. I can transplant it and give it to Hua as a snack. Bufang thought to himself. When everything was ready, Bufang moved. An explosive force burst out. Bufang shot out like a bolt of lightning. His physical strength was more than 10 times stronger than when he was a half-step saint. Although the 9-stage lightning tribulation was deadly, the benefits were undeniable. If Bufang met the Vajra Realm expert again, he would be able to defeat him without using his Yin and Yang Taotai arms. His strength had grown too much. Of course, the increase of his true energy was also terrifying. Now I can move on. My current goal is to enter the finals, get the sacred nether puppet's heart and repair Xiao Bai. Bufang thought to himself. Then, his figure disappeared into the dense forest. At the end of the forest, boom, boom, a series of rumbling sounds rang out. 4 monks in red kasayas flew out of the forest and fell to the ground, their bodies glowing with golden light. Behind them were 3 winged beings who had spread their wings and soared into the sky, as well as 4 abyss powerhouses who were wrapped in blood-red robes. Fa Wu's face was cold. He put his palms together and stared at the Winged Man Valley experts and the Abyss expert. Amit Ba, Winged Man Valley, you colluded with the Abyss's murderous demons and killed my West Little Buddhism Realm's expert. I won't forgive you so easily. Fa Wu's face was as cold as ice. The West Little Buddhism realm was also a first-class small world, but they had fallen into the trap set up by the Abyss and the Winged Man Valley experts. If one of their junior brothers hadn't blocked the attacks from the two small worlds with his life, perhaps all the experts of the West Little Buddhism realm would perish. Such a grudge naturally couldn't be easily forgiven. The Winged Man Valley expert spread his wings and smiled gently. As expected of the West Little Buddhism realm. It's a pity that you didn't die after all that. The Abyss expert, holding a blood-colored spear in one hand, grinned grimly. It's useless. You've all been poisoned by my Abyss poison. You can't even use 70% of your strength now. Just give up. Rumble. Fa Wu's face darkened. Behind them was the surging blood Acheron River. They had been forced to the point where they had nowhere to retreat. They knew that the semifinals would be very dangerous, but they didn't expect it to be this dangerous. Swoosh in the dense forest, the sound of something tearing through the air resounded once more. Several figures flew out of the forest. The Earth Prison experts landed on an open space and looked coldly at the Winged Man Valley experts and the Abyss experts confronting each other in the distance. The Earth Prison team had joined forces with a first-class small world, which was Earth Prison's vassal world. It had a good relationship with Earth Prison, so it followed Earth Prison. The Hell team was also the only team that had managed to collect the white and black jade plate. Naturally, the Earth Prison team would stay as far away from such a vendetta as possible. They didn't want to be involved in this battle. Boom. The battle between the West Little Buddhism realm, the Winged Man Valley, and the Abyss broke out in an instant. A terrible aura pervaded the surroundings in an instant. The blood Acheron River exploded, and waves soared into the sky. The ground seemed to crack open. The Abyss expert's blood energy soared into the sky. He threw out his spear, which looked like a blood-colored lightning bolt that was about to tear the sky apart. The Winged Man Valley expert held a silver cross-shaped sword in front of him, his blonde hair fluttering in the wind. His face glowed with a holy light. The cross-shaped sword slashed down. The West Little Buddhism realm experts, on the other hand, were resisting the poison in their bodies bravely. Buzz Buddhist chants rang out as Fa Wu sat cross-legged on the ground. Suddenly, the image of a Buddha lying on his side emerged behind him. The Buddha pinched a flower and pointed a finger at the spear and the cross-shaped holy light sword. A loud bang rang out. The Buddha trembled violently and his arm shattered. The spear trembled for a moment before dispersing. Although the cross-shaped holy light sword dimmed a lot, its power did not diminish, and it slashed straight at Fa Wu. With one slash, the Buddha's head was cut off. Slash. The 4 monks from the West Little Buddhism realm coughed up blood, flew backward and fell to the ground, coughing up blood and breathing weakly. They were beginning to despair. Poisoned, they could not resist the joint attack of the Abyss and the Winged Man Valley expert. You filthy animals! Fa Wu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He no longer had the joy he had when he ate delicious food in front of Bu Fong's stall. The scene was transmitted to all small worlds through the projection array. Many small worlds fell silent. The West Little Buddhism realm experts were even more furious. Buddhist chants rang out incessantly, and their voices were deafening. However, they couldn't intervene. After all, this was a competition where the strong preyed on the weak. Damn bald donkeys! Aren't you merciful? You've saved so many people from small worlds. Now, guess who will come to save you? The Abyss experts' eyes were cold. The 4 Abyss experts grabbed the blood-colored spear at the same time and threw it out. For spears came whistling through the air. Fa Wu roared furiously. Buddhist light burst forth. An indistinct Buddha appeared and pushed out a palm in an attempt to block this attack. However, it shattered in an instant. Puff, puff. The 2 monks next to Fa Wu were pierced by the spears and nailed to the ground. The remnant soul flew out and entered the blood-red spear. The young Fa Shang's aura was weak, and he clutched Fa Wu's arm tightly. I'm afraid I'm going to see the Buddha this time. Fa Wu smiled bitterly. It was all because they were too naive. They had saved an expert from a small world, but they didn't expect it to be a trap. Instead, they were poisoned by the expert. Otherwise, even if the Winged Man Valley and the Abyss joined hands, Fa Wu would not be afraid. He coughed up blood, and black blood immediately flowed out of his mouth. What a pity! I can't eat Onorbu's teppanyaki again before I die. What a pity! Fa Wu's face was shrouded in black smoke, but he had a regretful look on his face. You still want to eat meat before you die? You're really unqualified, monk. The Abyss expert condensed another spear in his hand. He fixed his eyes on Fa Wu. The next moment, he threw the spear at Fa Wu's bald head. His killing intent surged. The Earth Prison expert narrowed his eyes. Was the West Little Buddhism Realm's expert going to be killed just like that? It was a pity. After all, the contestants from the West Little Buddhism Realm were all first-class expert. Fa Wu and Fa Shang also wore helpless looks on their faces. Fa Wu hugged Fa Shang and gently patted his back. Don't be afraid, senior brother. We're just going to see Buddha and chat with him. It won't hurt, Fa Wu said with a smile. Suddenly, just as the blood-colored spear was about to land on Fa Wu and Fa Shang, a voice suddenly rang out. A rustling sound rang out from the dense forest. The next moment, a black shadow suddenly flew over. Clang! Clang! A black walk shot out and spun continuously, blocking in front of Fa Wu and Fa Shang. The spear hit the black walk, but it failed to break it. Everyone's pupils constricted. The Abyss expert narrowed his eyes. The Winged Man Valley expert also narrowed his eyes and turned his head to look into the depths of the forest. The Earth Prison experts were shocked. Who is it? Fa Wu also opened his eyes and stared blankly at the black walk in front of them. The familiar black walk left him in a daze. Swish, a gust of wind blew past. It rolled up the fallen leaves on the ground. In the depths of the forest, a figure slowly walked out of the forest. His striped red and white vermilion robe fluttered in the wind. A slender and thin figure slowly walked out of the forest. With one hand behind his back and the other holding a teapot, he poured tea into his mouth with a straight face. After walking out of the forest, Bufang squinted at the Abyss expert and the Winged Man Valley expert in the distance. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Well, I've finally found you. Birdman Valley and the Abyss. It's time to settle our scores. Bufang swallowed the tea, stuck out his tongue, licked his lips, and said with an expressionless face. Chapter 1272. It's you. It's that little chef. How dare he come forward? He's still alive? Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with shock. They had never thought that the one who would stand out at this time would be the little chef, the one who had shone brilliantly in the arena. Ba, Onorbu you. Go now. Fa Wu smiled bitterly. He didn't expect that it would be Bufang who stepped forward. What was Bufang's cultivation base? He was just a half-step saint. How could he be a match for the Winged Man Valley and the Abyss when they joined forces? Even if he came to help, he would only die. In that case, Fa Wu's sin would increase by another layer. Bufang put away the 9 Revolution Great Path tea in his hand and glanced indifferently at Fa Wu. It's fine. Saving you is just a bonus. The main thing is to get even with them. They know what I mean. Bufang said lightly. His voice lingered in the air. Drinking tea all the way, Bufang's mental force had recovered to its peak. Now, he suddenly felt a little eager to have a face-to-face fight with the so-called minor saint expert. To get even with the Abyss and the Winged Man Valley? In the distance, the faces of the Earth Prison experts became very strange. They didn't expect this little chef to be so arrogant. Did he think he could be so arrogant just because he had some strength? He really didn't know what was good for him. How strong were the Winged Man Valley and the Abyss? Even the West Little Buddhism realm couldn't resist them and was almost wiped out, yet a little chef dared to join in the fun? The reason why the Earth Prison experts chose to stand aside was that they were afraid of the Abyss and Winged Man Valley's means. However, their reaction was different from theirs. Behind the light screen, all the people watching the match cheered. "Kill them! Little Chef, kill those despicable Abyss and Winged Man Valley bastards! I've been annoyed by their arrogant faces for a long time." They were the ones who knew Bufang's strength the best. Hence, all of them exclaimed and screamed. They knew what Bufang had done to the Abyss and the Winged Man Valley. As soon as he entered the dense forest, the Abyss and the Winged Man Valley sent people to surround Bufang and kill Bufang. Naturally, he wouldn't let this grudge go so easily. Settle accounts? What right do you have to settle accounts with us? The expert from the Abyss said coldly. I didn't expect you to escape from Captain's clutches. But you didn't take the path you could have taken. Instead, you barged in here. Captain didn't kill you, so we'll naturally kill you now. The experts of the Abyss spoke. Spears condensed in their hands, and their eyes were cold. I didn't expect you to be able to escape from our Winged Man Valley's expert. You're pretty strong, the Winged Man Valley leader said, narrowing his eyes. Their words caused the surrounding people to suck in a breath of cold air. Obviously, they didn't expect there to be such a secret. Obviously, the experts of the Abyss and the Winged Man Valley had attacked Bufang. No wonder Bufang said he wanted to settle accounts with them. Wait, settle accounts? Shouldn't he be hiding after escaping with great difficulty? Why did he come here to die? Buzz, the Winged Man Valley expert, gently flicked the silver cross-shaped sword in his hand, his eyes cold. Bufang put his hands behind his back and looked at them. The wind blew, and his hair fluttered wildly. Escape! The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched as he shook his head. Then, with a thought in his mind, suddenly, a pair of blood-stained white wings appeared on the ground. A strong smell of blood spread from them. These chicken wings look familiar, don't they? Bufang said, looking at the Winged Man Valley expert. His wings? That's the Winged Man Valley expert's wings. How could the wings of the Winged Man Valley expert appear here? From the little chef's spatial ornament? Could it be, as long as the wings are alive, the man will die? I can't believe you killed a Winged Man Valley expert. The Winged Man Valley leader's eyes widened at this moment. A terrible aura burst out of his body. Boom! Waves of air swept out, and a terrible and oppressive aura spread out of the Winged Man Valley expert's body. Everyone's pupils constricted as they stared at the Winged Man Valley leader in disbelief. This is the cultivation base of a 2-revolution little saint. Captain Earth Prison's pupils constricted as he felt incredulous. Fa Wu sucked in a breath of cold air. The Abyss experts were also very afraid. They couldn't believe that the Winged Man Valley leader was a 2-revolution little saint. They had been kept in the dark all this time. Many people were scared. A 2-revolution little saint was enough to change the situation. Once the Winged Man Valley expert broke out in a fierce battle, the whole army might be wiped out. It was all thanks to this little chef that the sinister Winged Man Valley leader had to reveal his strength. Oh, this is only one pair. I also found another pair on the way here. I found another pair on the way here, Bufang said indifferently, looking at the Winged Man Valley leader. The Winged Man Valley leader was calm and didn't feel pressured at all. Owner Bu, run. You're no match for him. The difference between a 2-revolution little saint and a 1-revolution little saint is too big. Fa Wu shouted at Bufang, his face extremely unsightly. This time, his expression changed for real. If the Winged Man Valley leader was a 1-revolution little saint, with the means Owner Bu had shown him, he might have been able to escape. But if he was a 2-revolution little saint, he would have died. You killed 2 Winged Man Valley experts? You deserve to die. The Winged Man Valley leader's heart sank. The Winged Man Valley had sent 2 people to kill Bufang. One of them and the Abyss expert were chasing after Bufang. The other was chasing after the Dragon's Celestial Realm expert in order to get the jade plate in his hand. But now it seemed that both of them had been killed. And they were both killed by the little chef in front of him. This guy. Damn it. Rumble. A monstrous airwave burst out. With a cold look in his eyes, the Winged Man Valley leader turned into a stream of light and sped away. In just a flash, he left numerous afterimages in his wake. Moreover, he exuded an extremely terrifying aura. The aura swept out as if to overturn the sky. Suddenly, a silver sword light slashed down, carrying with it a sharp force that seemed to cut the void into pieces. Die! The Winged Man Valley leader's eyes were full of killing intent. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. A 2-revolution little saint had finally made a move. This little chef is going to die. How could a half-step saint resist a 2-revolution little saint? The gap between them was simply too great. The silver cross-shaped sword light seemed to carry the meaning of judgment and was going to cut Bufang in half. Everyone's eyes were glued to this scene. Fa Wu patted Fa Shang and smiled bitterly. Now that Owner Bu is going to see Buddha with us, Senior Brother's wish to eat teppanyaki will come true. Bufang's face was calm. He looked indifferently at the silver sword light that was slashing toward him. The next moment, golden light burst out of his hand. The dragon bone kitchen knife suddenly appeared in his hand. A deafening dragon roar reverberated through the air. Then, a huge phantom emerged behind Bufang. Buzz, the will of the great path, twisted above Bufang's head. It came from the heaven and earth farmland. It was Bufang's own will of the great path. Boom! A knife energy seemed to come from the beginning of time. It flew over and destroyed everything in its path. One slash. Cutting immortal, Bufang said lightly. The next moment, the knife energy collided with the Winged Man Valley leader's silver sword light. Boom! A deafening rumble rang out. The Winged Man Valley leader's pupils constricted. He actually felt threatened by the knife energy. A collision broke out. Then, the wings behind the Winged Man Valley leader spread, and he flew into the distance. His eyes were fixed on Bufang. It's a tie? He blocked it? This little chef blocked the attack of the 2-stage little saint? Everyone exclaimed, and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They found it unbelievable. Holding the dragon bone kitchen knife, Bufang glanced sideways at the Winged Man Valley leader. Then, he stomped his foot on the ground. His aura burst out and soared straight into the sky like a beam of light. The will of the great path hovered over his head, looking very vague. 1 knife energy, 2 knife energies, 3 knife energies, a total of 13 saber lights gathered continuously. Then, they turned into 1 knife, the Overlord. 13 knives. The phantom of an Overlord emerged behind Bufang. It was almost tangible, and the will of the great path hovered over his head. The 13 knives turned into 1 knife and slashed down, destroying everything in an instant. The Winged Man Valley leader's pupils constricted. Aurora Sword of Judgment! He roared. The cultivation base of the 2-stage little saint was fully displayed. However, he had just broken through to the little saint realm. Therefore, his mastery of power was still flawed. The clouds rumbled. They exploded. Ripples spread out in all directions. In the blink of an eye, a huge silver sword slashed down from the clouds, heading straight for Bufang. There was another collision. A terrible rumble spread in all directions. Everyone present sucked in a cold breath. How did this little chef's cultivation base become so strong? Crack! A clear and melodious voice resounded. The Winged Man Valley leader's expression changed dramatically. Looking at the silver cross-shaped sword in his hand, his eyes widened. How could a supreme-grade immortal tool crack? How was that possible? In Bufang's Spirit Sea, little host has broken through to the little saint realm and can finally exert the power of the god of cooking Set. The divine dragon said, swaying his body. The vermilion bird nodded with excitement in her eyes. It was time for the vermilion robe to show its true power. Bufang gently exhaled after shattering his opponent's sword with a single slash. Then, with a flip of his hand, he put away the dragon bone kitchen knife. He looked at the winged man valley leader and twitched the corner of his mouth. A half-step saint? I stopped a long time ago. Bufang has broken through to the little saint realm? Everyone was shocked by this news, feeling somewhat at a loss. Before entering the forest, he was still a half-step saint, but when he came out, he became a little saint. Was it really so easy to become a little saint? All of them had spent years in seclusion to become little saints. It was infuriating to compare oneself with others. A bird cry rang out. Bufang's vermilion robe turned crimson in an instant. His flaming wings spread out, and flaming feathers fluttered. Then, Bufang turned into a blood-colored beam of light and appeared in midair, facing the winged man valley leader. The bandage disappeared. He thrust out his yin and yang Taotai arms. His blood and chi rumbled. Bufang was fighting the winged man valley leader head-on. Boom, boom, boom. Above the sky, the energy continued to pour out, and the explosions continued. The winged man valley leader's furious roar rang out. The people down below were dumbfounded. Two figures, one red and one white, were fighting in midair. The winged man valley leader was both shocked and angry. He actually felt a terrible pressure from Bufang, which made it impossible for him to move his blood and chi. Boom! A fist smashed into his handsome face, shattering his bones. The winged man valley leader's face twisted. He turned into a stream of light and smashed into the ground, completely shattering it. A second revolution little saint couldn't defeat a first revolution little saint? Moreover, he was just a first revolution little saint. How could he be so terrifying? Smoke and dust billowed. Everyone was dumbfounded and didn't know what to say. Fa Wu patted Fa Shang and said, "It seems that we don't have to go see Buddha again. Owner Bu, you're so irritable." Bufang hovered in midair. His scarlet vermilion robe fluttered in the wind. Bufang narrowed his eyes and looked indifferently at the deep pit on the ground. Hot steam rose from his body, which was the embodiment of his physical strength being exerted to the extreme. The yin and yang Taotai arms had mobilized his physical strength to the extreme. At this moment, even if the Vajra realm expert exerted his full strength, he would most likely be killed by his punch. The winged man valley leader was, after all, a second revolution little saint, and yet, he was almost half dead. The Acheron River rumbled, and the blood-colored water surged endlessly. Everyone was watching quietly, not making a sound. Whether it was those at the scene or those watching through the light screen, they were all shocked. Bufang landed on the ground and slowly walked toward the deep pit. Suddenly, he took a step forward and raised his eyebrows. A burst of silver light suddenly burst out. In an instant it hit Bufang. With unparalleled power, it was almost unstoppable. Bufang's figure was suddenly blasted backward. The invincibility of the vermilion robe was activated. It offset the attack. Bufang narrowed his eyes and looked over coldly. There, the winged man valley leader floated up. On his forehead, there was a pattern of a holy sword. "Kill me? You think you can?" The winged man valley leader laughed wildly. The next moment, the holy sword pattern suddenly burst into dazzling light. Boom! His aura soared into the sky and turned into a beam of white light. All of a sudden, a blurry figure appeared in the sky. It was the figure of a white expert. He also looked like a winged man, but he had 4 wings. "I'm the grandson of the winged man valley's great sage. What makes you think you can kill me? If you kill me, you'll be killed by the 4-winged great sage of the winged man valley." Ha! Buzz, the phantom of the 4-winged great sage, floated in the void. The great sage's aura suddenly spread and filled the sky. In the light screen, Yu-Ji and the other Earth prison overlords stood up abruptly, their pupils constricting. The next moment, they all unleashed their auras and fled. How dare the Winged Man Valley break the rules? At the source of the Acheron River, the blood-colored illuminating dragon suddenly spewed out blood-colored flames from its nostrils. The figure holding a blade of grass narrowed his eyes. The great sage of the Winged Man Valley dares to come to Acheron's territory and act presumptuously? In Hell Prison's Hades Palace, in the 18th floor of the Demon King Pass, there was a loud bang. The gate of the Demon King Pass shook violently. A terrifying aura spread inside. As soon as the great sage's aura emerged in Earth Prison from other small worlds, it caused a storm in the whole Earth Prison. Powerful auras spread in all the Forbidden Lands. Bufang hovered in the void, staring at the four-winged figure. He took a deep breath. Suddenly, his mind flickered. He looked up. The void above his head was torn apart, and a pitch-black dog paw loomed in it. Monstrous nether energy suddenly spread. Where did this birdman come from? How dare he attack the Lord Go's people in the Lord Go's territory? A lazy, gentle, and magnetic voice rang out. Chapter 1273. The Winged Man Valley was considered a vassal of Nether Prison. Geographically, it was not far from Nether Prison. Nether Prison had once invaded it, but the great sage of the Winged Man Valley stopped it. In the end, the higher-ups of the two countries sat down, reconciled, and signed some treaties. Over the years, the Winged Man Valley had developed rapidly, thanks to Nether Prison's help. The cultivation base of the Winged Man Valley's winged men was determined by the number of wings on their back. The more wings they had, the stronger they were. The figure in the sky had 2 pairs of wings, 4 in total. A terrible fluctuation spread from it, and a holy light illuminated the whole world. This was the great sage's power, and it was extremely shocking. The Winged Man Valley leader's identity was not ordinary. He could actually attract the great sage's help. However, this was a violation of the rules. The Netherworld's Tournament of the Great Path had strict requirements that experts like the great sage were not allowed to intervene. The Winged Man Valley leader's move was a desperate move. He was pushed to the limit by Bufang. As a second revolution little saint, he was beaten by a boy who had just become a little saint. The little chef's body was so strong that it almost made him despair. When he threw a punch, he felt as if it carried a tremendous force, and it was extremely difficult for him to resist. After feeling the threat of death, the Winged Man Valley leader summoned the great sage's clone without hesitation. It was a life-saving means his grandfather had given him. Rumble! A pure and holy light figure floated in the void. The four-winged light figure was like a real god, blooming with a brilliance that made everyone's heart palpitate. Bufang hovered in midair and watched expressionlessly. Suddenly, above him, the void was torn apart. A pitch-black dog paw swatted at the glowing figure. Lord Go! That gave Bufang pause. Looking at the rift in the void, he saw a black dog lying lazily with its paw raised. Bufang narrowed his eyes. He felt that the Lord Go's power had grown stronger again. Where did this dog paw come from? How dare you offend the four-winged great sage of the Winged Man Valley? You're courting death. The Winged Man Valley leader's eyes widened, and he let out a roar. With the support of the four-winged great sage, he was now full of confidence. Not to mention one little chef, even if there were 10 of them, he could still crush them to ashes. The exquisite dog paw swept across the sky. It immediately attracted the attention of the four-winged great sage. The glowing figure's head moved, as if a line of sight was projected onto the dog's paw. Buzz, a dazzling light suddenly shone on the great sage. In the next moment, the 2 pairs of pure white wings on his back shook violently. He raised his fist and punched out. It collided with Lord Go's claw. Holy Light Fist. This was the Winged Man Valley's best combat skill. The dog paw didn't stop there. It continued to sweep across the sky. Black nether energy kept sweeping out, and the terrible power of heaven and earth spread, making everyone present feel suffocated. By the time the exquisite dog paw appeared, The members of the Hell Party were already sprawled on the ground. Their bodies were trembling non-stop and their faces were filled with fear. They were no strangers to that feeling. It was the aura of the infernal realm, the aura of the infernal realm's ruler. It was the aura of Earth Prison's great sage. They couldn't believe that this little chef actually had the support of Earth Prison's great sage. How could a chef from the Heaven Chief realm have the support of Earth Prison's great sage? Boom! The light fist and the dog paw collided. A terrible explosion broke out in an instant. However, what made everyone's jaws drop was, the light fist was as fragile as glass. In an instant, it broke inch by inch and collapsed in the void. Boom! The dog paw smashed down. The four-winged great sage was slapped hard into the ground, creating a huge pit. How dare a three-revolution great sage's Birdman clone show off in front of you, Lord Go? Even if you were here in your true form, I would have to shrink my wings and stay aside when I see Lord Go. A warm and lazy voice resounded from within the rift, and it carried undisguised disdain. The Winged Man Valley leader was stunned. The dog paw came down. His trump card was mercilessly slapped to the ground. How was this possible? Boom! The ground rumbled, and gravel flew into the air. The figure of the four-winged great saint soared into the sky again, and a cross-shaped lightsaber suddenly appeared in his hand. Buzz! It was as if the will of the great path was sweeping across the void. The light sword was thrown out by the figure. In the blink of an eye, it crossed the sky and shot toward Lord Go, who was hiding in the rift. This is the Winged Man Valley's unique technique, cross-trial. The Winged Man Valley leader's pupils constricted. Behind him, the eyes of the remaining two Winged Man Valley experts also lit up. However, they soon fell into despair again. Inside the rift, a pitch-black dog paw swatted out once again, lightly slapping the cross-light sword. The cross-light sword crumbled as easily as crushing dry weed. The dog paw continued to sweep across the sky. Then, it slapped the four-winged great sage's projection again. The great sage was slammed so hard that he almost scattered. The second paw was over. Suddenly, a rumbling sound rang out from the void. The next moment, the third paw approached. The void was so oppressive that it kept rumbling. Rumble! The last claw suddenly fell. The four-winged figure was smashed into ashes. 3 exquisite dog paws, and a great sage's clone was smashed to smithereens. Puff! The Winged Man Valley leader opened his mouth and coughed out a mouthful of blood. The light sword between his eyebrows shattered, and his aura suddenly weakened. Then, he fell hard to the ground. His eyes widened and he felt that this was unbelievable. How could there be such a powerful dog in the world? Blood trickled down the corner of the Winged Man Valley leader's mouth, and his eyes widened. He looked around. All the Earth Prison experts were lying on the ground, cowering in fear. Even the leader of the Earth Prison team, whose strength was not weaker than his, was the same. It was as if the experts of hell were facing a supreme existence. A dog, the Earth Prison experts were so in awe of him. The Winged Man Valley leader's pupils constricted as he suddenly realized something. Earth Prison dog? He roared hoarsely. The Earth Prison dog that was seriously injured by the experts of the 9 Nether Prison clans? How could he be here? How could he recover from his injuries so quickly? Why are they calling you Lord Go? A lazy voice rang out from the crack in the void. Unfair! You black dog! As the great sage of Earth Prison, what right do you have to interfere in the competition? I can't accept this. The Winged Man Valley leader's eyes were full of unwillingness as he roared. Bufong looked at him indifferently and twitched the corner of his mouth slightly. How dare this guy say it's unfair? First, he hid his strength, and then he summoned the great sage's clone. This kind of person is unfair to the extreme. And now he has the nerve to say it's unfair? The whole place fell silent for a few seconds. Only the Winged Man Valley leader's unwilling roar could be heard. He was roaring angrily. However, the void was torn apart. Another dog paw fell from the sky. With a rumble, The paw enlarged in front of the Winged Man Valley leader's eyes and completely engulfed him. The entire ground trembled and collapsed completely, leaving a huge paw print on the ground. Don't say that the Lord Go bullied the weak. The Lord Go is merciful to leave you alive after slapping you half to death. As for the rest, let Bufang Boy handle it. The gentle and magnetic voice rang out in the air again. Then, the rift in the void slowly closed. Inside the rift, the lazy Lord Go squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. There, a figure was holding a blade of grass and looking at the Lord Go with a smile. The Lord Go waved his paw at the figure. Then, the rift was completely closed and disappeared. The figure hovered in midair. He was playing with a blade of grass in his hand. There was a playful look in his eyes. This mangy dog is helping this little chef from a distance. He looks familiar. Is he the boy who stole my acaron grass? The figure mumbled. Who cares? It's just a piece of one-leaf acaron grass. It's not worth offending this black dog for a piece of one-leaf acaron grass. Also, the great sage of the Birdman Valley dares to attack in Earth Prison. Does he think that there's no one in Earth Prison who can stop him? As the figure spoke, he slightly shook his head. Clutching the grass, his figure quickly disappeared into the void. Earth Prison, Hades Palace Underground, 18 Ghost King passes. The fiercely shaking bronze gate suddenly stopped. A massive aura diffused from behind the gate. Boom. Then, the sound of a fist hitting the bronze gate rang out, and the sound of footsteps gradually faded away. For the spicy strip, I have to get through this godforsaken place as soon as possible. The faint voice dissipated in the air. Smoke and dust billowed. Bufang landed on the edge of the dog's paw pit, looking into it with a strange face. Everyone around was in awe. Trembling, they stared at the pit. The paw just now seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth. Was that the power of Earth Prison Dog? Was it the Earth Prison Dog who once attacked Nether Prison and fought against the 9 clans? Rumble, the gravel rolled. The Winged Man Valley leader was covered in blood. His wings were broken and hung crookedly on his shoulders. He looked like a madman, coughing up blood and laughing. The dog's paw had been merciful. It didn't kill him. However, it had also beaten him half to death. Lord Go, on the other hand, left the Winged Man Valley leader to Bufang. Bufang glanced at the Winged Man Valley leader, his mind a little blank. Had Lord Go come to Earth Prison as well? He had always thought that the lazy dog was still sleeping soundly in Immortal Chef Little store. However, Lord Go had come to Earth Prison, but he didn't come to see him. Had he gone to deal with something? Bufang pondered for a long time. Just as Bufang was pondering, the Winged Man Valley leader's eyes gleamed fiercely. All of you, attack! Chop off this brat's head for me! The Winged Man Valley leader roared. Rumble! His wings spread. The 2 Winged Man Valley Little Saint, who had been watching the battle for a long time, burst into action at the same time. Their figures turned into arrows and sped toward Bufang. Silver swords appeared in their hands. Their eyes were full of killing intent. A terrifying aura swept out. Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. Fa Wu and the others were so shocked by the appearance of 4-winged Great Saint and Lord Dog that they had yet to recover from their shock. The sudden attack from the Winged Man Valley experts made their pupils constrict. Fa Wu's pupils constricted, and he looked at Bufang. Owner Bu, be careful. The experts of the Earth Prison team also took deep breath. On the light screen, countless people were in an uproar. Despicable Winged Man Valley. How could they attack? The Winged Man Valley Birdman. F*CKU. How dare you say it's unfair? Little Chef, fight back. Don't just stand there. When the audience saw that Bufang was still standing at the same spot, their faces were filled with anxiety. They really didn't want Bufang to die in the hands of the enemy like this. The 2 Winged Man Valley Little Saints sped toward Bufang one after the other. Above the silver lightsaber, there was a holy energy floating. Die! Roared the winged man Valley Little Saint. One of them thrust the sword at Bufang's head. The other thrust his sword at Bufang's throat. His killing intent was overwhelming. The winged man Valley Great Sage laughed wildly in excitement. In the distance, a depressing whistling sound suddenly broke out. 4 streams of light approached at high speed. They were 4 Earth Prison Overlords. As the swords approached, Bufang's eyes moved slightly. Then, he raised his eyes and looked at the winged man Valley Little Saint above him. With a thought, a dumpling appeared in his hand. As Bufang's cultivation base broke through to the Little Saint level, the Little Saint's energy poured into the dumpling made the effect of the death food tool even stronger. The dumpling's control over the Little Saint had been extended to 2 breaths. 2 breaths, it was enough for Bufang to torture him 1,000 times. Rumble! The colorful divine seal dumpling was crushed. 7 colored light suddenly surged. The pupils of the 2-winged man Valley Little Saint constricted. Then, a look of terror appeared in his eyes. They found that their bodies were unable to move. Bufang glanced expressionlessly at the 2-winged man Valley Little Saint. Then, 2 explosive meatballs appeared in his hand. Sizzle, the meatballs were bitten open. Steam and aroma rose from them. Under the horrified gazes of the 2 little saints, Bufang stuffed the meatballs into their mouth. The next moment, he flicked his fingers between the 2 little saints' eyebrows. The 2 little saints were sent flying backward. No and no! Miserable howls resounded through the void. The next moment, they exploded with a loud bang. Flames soared into the sky, and energy fluctuations spread. The corners of everyone's mouths trembled as they watched this scene. The winged man Valley Captain stared blankly at the sky. His 2 subordinates were killed by Bufang so easily? Bufang turned his eyes and rested them on the winged man Valley Captain. 7 bursting pissing meatballs floated around Bufang. In the distance, a domineering voice rang out. Boom! Gold horn and silver horn flew over. Looking at Bufang, Jin Jiao's pupils constricted. Bufang! Stop! Jin Jiao shouted anxiously. His voice was as loud as a rainbow. Bufang glanced at Jin Jiao, his face expressionless. With a flick of his finger, an explosive meatball turned into a streak of golden light, flew out and exploded, devouring the winged man Valley Captain's remains. Oh! Sorry, my hand slipped, Bufang said expressionlessly, clasping his hands behind his back as he watched the flames devour the captain. Chapter 1274. My hand slipped? Who the hell would believe that your hand slipped? You don't have the slightest credibility to say that. When everyone saw Bufang say this innocently through the light screen, they couldn't help but criticize him inwardly. Naturally, they didn't believe Bufang's claim that his hand slipped. In the pit in the distance, flames surged, and the winged man Valley Captain's body had long been engulfed by the flames. His aura was gone. After all, he was seriously injured and almost killed by the Lord Go's claw. As a result, Bufang's explosive meatball had killed him. No one thought that the winged man Valley Captain could survive, and in fact, he wouldn't be able to. Boom! Flames surged. The next moment, a stream of holy light shot out of the flames and sped toward Bufang. When it arrived in front of Bufang, it exploded. It was as if a white rain had fallen. The holy light enveloped Bufang's body, making him look quite beautiful. Bufang narrowed his eyes as he looked at the light dots floating around him. There was a hint of doubt in his eyes. What's this? Bufang murmured. Jin Jiao and the others flew over like streams of light and landed beside Bufang. Looking at the light mist hovering around Bufang, his face turned extremely unsightly. I told you to stop. Why didn't you listen? Jin Jiao asked with an ugly face. My hand slipped. Bufang answered expressionlessly. He clasped his hands behind his back and looked indifferent. Your hand slipped? Do you think I'll believe you? The corner of Jin Jiao's mouth twitched. Yu Ji and the others also looked at Bufang speechlessly. You knew he was the grandson of the Winged Man Valley's great sage, yet you still killed him? Jin Jiao asked. He wanted to kill me, yet I couldn't kill him? Bufang looked at Jin Jiao doubtfully. Was there such a saying? Jin Jiao froze for a moment, then sighed. Do you know what this light rain is? This is the light rain released by the Winged Man Valley captain before he died. It's the same as leaving a mark on you. The Winged Man Valley's enemies will find you no matter where you go. Revenge. Bufang narrowed his eyes. Jin Jiao looked at Bufang and said helplessly, The Winged Man Valley is a small world that will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. I asked you to stop because I wanted you to delay killing him and hand over the Winged Man Valley captain to us. He broke the rules and will definitely be punished. Unfortunately, the Winged Man Valley captain was killed by Bufang with a meatball. They really didn't give him any face at all. Then let's take revenge. It's fine, let them come. Bufang said lightly. After saying that, Bufang slowly wrapped his Taotai arm with a bandage. Jin Jiao didn't know what to say. He could only look at Bufang helplessly. They, the prison overlords, were responsible for protecting the rules. Unfortunately, they encountered a group of kids who didn't follow the rules. Bufang gently tapped the ground with his foot, and his figure floated up. He landed in a deep pit. That was where the Winged Man Valley captain's body was. With a wave of his hand, a black jade plate fell into his hand. Putting away the black jade plate, Bufang glanced at the prison overlords and the others from the corner of his eyes, then continued forward. Jin Jiao and the others were helpless. They had come here to maintain order, but they seemed a little slow. By the time they arrived, everything was over. Well, the semi-finals will continue. Be careful. The Acheron River is very dangerous. Jin Jiao said as he watched Bufang fly away. Swish, swish, swish. In the next moment, the figures of the Hell Overlords disappeared once again. The Earth Prison experts looked at each other in dismay. Even Fa Wu and Fa Shang from the West Little Buddhism realm sat down on the ground. They had escaped a disaster. The experts of the Earth Prison team glanced at Fa Wu and Fa Shang, then sped away. They came to the bank of the Acheron River one after another. The next test they had to face was how to cross the river. After crossing the Acheron River, they would arrive at the town of Acheron. Once there, it meant the semi-finals were over. This semi-final was simply a bloody competition. Along the way, the participating teams all suffered heavy casualties. Even the Winged Man Valley team was wiped out. The Abyss experts were so frightened that they fled and ran into the Acheron River. After all, even the leader of the Winged Man Valley, a 2-revolution little saint, was killed. They had offended Bufang, so how could they survive in front of him? They still didn't understand how the little chef had become so strong. The Acheron River kept flowing and rumbling. The blood-red river flowed unceasingly, and within it, there were dried-up bones and remnant souls drifting away. There was no smell of blood in the water. The water was not condensed by blood. Standing on the bank of the Acheron River, one could feel the water vapor rushing toward them. Next, they had to cross the river. However, without a boat, they could only cross the river with their strength. The danger within made many people raise their guard. Flying over the Acheron River was forbidden. This was a saying that had been passed down in Earth Prison since ancient times. Once someone flew, they were likely to suffer a disaster. Therefore, every expert who wanted to cross the Acheron River would choose to take a boat. Just when Bufang was hesitating about whether to borrow Yu's netherworld ship, at some point, Fa Wu had come to Bufang's side. Thank you for saving my life just now, Owner Bu. I have a boat. Would you like to cross it with me, Owner Bu? Fa Wu said with a smile. His face was a little pale, but he had already forced out the abyss poison in his body. After recuperating, he would be able to recover his cultivation base. Bufang glanced at Fa Wu and said, "You're welcome. Saving you was just a side trip." Fa Wu chuckled. In the yellow spring river, a blood-colored warship was slowly traversing. It was the warship of the Abyss experts. They had long been scared out of their wits by Bufang, so they were the first to cross the river. The experts of the Earth Prison team also took out a boat. They naturally knew more about the Acheron River. Fa Wu's heart skipped a beat. Immediately, a golden Buddha ship appeared. The Buddha ship was golden in color, and it was full of carvings, exuding a feeling of peace and tranquility. As soon as Bufang stepped onto the Buddha ship, an invisible Buddha light enveloped his body. Bufang raised his brows slightly. The Buddha light seemed to want to drill into his body and purify Bufang. However, with a sweep of Bufang's divine sense, the Buddha light was expelled. Next to him, Fa Wu gave Bufang a deep look. Swoosh, the Buddha ship entered the water. The blood-colored river was so turbulent that it slapped the ship's deck, stirring up splashes. The blood-colored splashes were a ghastly sight to behold. Bufang sat cross-legged on the deck. His eyes darkened as he looked at the rolling river, his face indifferent. This wasn't the first time he had crossed the Acheron River. Buzz on the surface of the river, a red mist suddenly appeared. The mist shrouded the surface of the river and stretched as far as the eye could see. Umitba. It's said that the Acheron River is mysterious and leads to the other shore of life. Now it seems that it makes sense. Fa Wu put his palms together and looked at the blood mist with a serious face. Swoosh, the ships drifted slowly. Not far from them were the blurry figures of Earth Prison's ships, and further away were the Abyss's ships. The three ships were slowly moving horizontally. They left ripples on the river's surface. What's that? Suddenly, a shout rang out in the quiet space. It seemed to come from the mouth of an Abyss expert in the distance. Bufang's face froze. Fa Wu also put his palms together and looked into the distance. Fa Wu hated the Abyss as well. It's a lotus? What a beautiful lotus! I'll go pick it. Heavens! Is this lotus a saint-grade immortal material? No. It doesn't seem to be as simple as saintly-grade immortal materials. A commotion broke out on the Abyss's ship. Everyone was taken aback. Bufang narrowed his eyes and his mind flickered. A lotus flower? A lotus flower on the Acheron River. In the next moment, something seemed to flash across Bufang's mind, and he recalled the scene when he crossed the Acheron River. The senseless lotus on the Acheron River, Bufang murmured. The powerhouses of the Abyss must have encountered the mysterious senseless lotus. The system had reminded him that the senseless lotus was a divine-grade food ingredient. A treasure that even the system couldn't help but remind him was naturally extraordinary. Rumble. On the Abyss's ship. An expert flew out of the ship and landed lightly on the Acheron River. He gently landed on the underworld river and slowly flew toward the senseless lotus that was quietly floating on the river. Fa Wu put his palms together. It's the Hell Senseless Lotus. That's a legendary item. It represents death and disaster. Fa Wu said, seeming to know many secrets. A commotion broke out on the Hell Team's ship. Rumble. On the Hell Team's ship, some little saint experts also rushed out, stepping on the river as if they were walking on flat ground, flying toward the senseless lotus. They wanted to fight for the senseless lotus. A legendary spirit herb was naturally enough to make them go crazy. Get lost. The Abyss experts roared and fought with the Earth Prison experts. The battle broke out instantly. Waves surged, and the whole Acheron River seemed to explode. However, the area around the senseless lotus was still very quiet, floating quietly. Bufang sat on the deck, his eyes focused. Bam! 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 The battle grew fiercer and fiercer. The Abyss and Earth Prison experts all joined the battle. They fought their way up to the sky from the ground. They rushed out of the hazy blood mist. However, as soon as they got out of the blood mist, suddenly, a blood-colored palm emerged out of thin air in the sky. The palm blotted out the sky like the palm of a fiend god, and it came crashing down. The Earth Prison experts and the Abyss experts were slapped into the Acheron River. No flying was allowed in the Acheron River, and only supreme experts were allowed to fly. The miserable howls came to an abrupt end. Swoosh, corpses floated up from the river. They were the corpses of the Earth Prison experts and the Abyss experts. These corpses floated, slowly drifting around the senseless lotus. It was as if they were singing a sad song. Suddenly, amidst the hazy blood mist, a small boat swayed as it approached. The leisurely sound of a flute drifted out of the boat. Fa Wu's pupils constricted, and his face changed dramatically. He put his palms together, sat cross-legged, and began to recite Buddhist scriptures. His whole body glowed with a golden light to resist the invasion of the flute. Bufang rose to his feet, clasped his hands behind his back, and stood on the deck. The wind blew over, fluttering his vermilion robe. Senseless lotus, soul fisherman. It's been a long time. Bufang murmured faintly. The leisurely sound of the flute was full of charm. It drifted slowly over, as if to wash away people's memories, make them forget everything, and embark on the road of life. The old man was wearing a bamboo hat and a blood-colored straw raincoat. He had an unshaven beard, and he was holding a white-boned flute. The melodious sound came from the flute. The sound of the flute entered his ears. Bufang's eyes suddenly burst with golden light. The next moment, in the whirlpool in his spirit sea, the divine will phantom spirit opened its eyes. His divine will poured out like a rainbow. The sound of the flute was immediately pushed away. Last time, Bufang had to rely on Lord Go to resist the flute. But now, with his divine will, Bufang had nothing to fear. Swish, the sound of the flute stopped. Holding his fishing rod, the soul fisherman gently touched the corpses of the experts hovering around the senseless lotus. Immediately, one twisted soul after another was fished out and stuffed into the fish basket on the boat. How terrifying! Blood trickled from Fa Wu's mouth and nose as he stared in horror at the old man on the Acheron River. Standing on the deck, Bufang looked straight at the old man. Suddenly, his eyes flashed. Enter the helplessness rebirth, enter the cycle of reincarnation. The old man's chuckle drifted in the air. After the souls were fished away by the old man, the corpses of the Abyss and Earth Prison experts sank into the river and turned into bones. The old man seemed to sense something. He jerked his head up and looked at Bufang, who was standing on the boat. The old man's eyes narrowed. It was a familiar face. It's you. The young man who asked me for a flower of helplessness. Sitting cross-legged on the boat, the old man's hoarse voice echoed across the Acheron River. Bufang looked at the old man, the corners of his mouth twitching slightly. The flower of helplessness. Senior, do you have any more flowers of helplessness? Bufang asked, looking at the old man. The flower of helplessness. Yes, I have from 1 to 9 petals. The old man said. Bufang's eyes narrowed. A 9-petal flower of helplessness. Bufang's breathing became rapid. The Acheron wine of helplessness was made with a leaf of Acheron grass and a petal of the flower of helplessness. Although it tasted good, it was not good enough for Bufang. It was not easy for him to come to Earth Prison again. He came to the Acheron River. How could Bufang return empty-handed? Bufang had long wanted to brew a jar of peerless wine. With the 9-leaf Acheron grass and the 9-petal flower of helplessness with his hands clasped behind his back, Bufang took a step forward and walked out of the boat. Senior, I want the 9-petal flower of helplessness. What can I trade for it? Bufang asked. 9-petal flower of helplessness, young man. Your appetite is getting bigger and bigger. Now, you don't have that dog to protect you, the old man said. Buzz, after that, he flipped his hand. A flower that looked like a white magnolia floated in his hand. It was a pure white flower with 9 petals, exuding dense energy. This is the 9-petal flower of helplessness. If you want it, exchange it with your life. Chapter 1275. In Forbidden Soul City, in the central square, the light screen of the projection array was reflecting the scene in the Acheron River. At this moment, the whole square was silent. Everyone was shocked by the scene on the screen. Many of the people present came from other small worlds, so they didn't know much about Earth Prison. Before this, they had rarely come to Earth Prison to investigate. They only knew that the Acheron River was dangerous, but they had no idea how dangerous it was. Now, however, they knew. The floating bones, the roaring souls, the pure white senseless lotus, a drifting boat, and the soul fisherman's blood-colored palm. This scene caused their breathing to quicken. It was as if they were facing an unimaginable experience. The Abyss experts were all dead. They had escaped Bufang's revenge, but they died because of their greed. Many Earth Prison experts had also died. It was a disaster for Earth Prison. Earth Prison was supposed to be the biggest winner of this semi-final. But in the face of the treasure, the senseless lotus, they couldn't hold back their greed and made a move. As a result, they sank to the bottom of the Acheron River together with the Abyss expert. The appearance of the soul fisherman and the sound of his flute made everyone's hair stand on end. If it weren't for Bufang's interruption, many people present might have lost their minds. The conversation between Bufang and the soul fisherman made many experts watching the competition through the light screen short of breath. The 9-petal flower of helplessness? Many people gasped in shock. Although the 9-petal flower of helplessness was not as precious as the 9-leaf Acheron grass, it was also a sacred-grade immortal material. It was hard to believe that such a treasure was in the hands of the soul fisherman. However, many people also understood. The soul fisherman was in charge of the path to the bridge of helplessness, and the flower of helplessness grew on the bridge. So it was normal for the old man to have the 9-petal flower of helplessness. Exchanging my life for it? Bufang narrowed his eyes and looked at the old man. The old man's words didn't seem to be friendly. This old man seems to want revenge for what happened last time. However, the current Bufang was no longer the Bufang of the past. Back then, with the Lord Go around, the Lord Go had scared the old man away with a single glance. Now, the latter was relying on the fact that the Lord Go was not around to get back at him. This made Bufang twitch the corner of his mouth involuntarily. The soul fisherman's aura was very strong and mysterious. It was as if he was shrouded in a layer of fog, making it difficult to see through him. However, judging from how the Lord Go's glare was enough to make the old man piss in his pants. This old man's cultivation base was definitely not that of the great sage. If he had reached the level of the great sage, he wouldn't have been scared away by a single look from the Lord Go. The old man was wearing a bamboo hat. His eyes were gloomy and cold. Holding the 9-petal flower of helplessness in his hand, a sinister smile appeared on his face. Bufang stared at him. He stared for a long time. Have you made up your mind? If you want the flower of helplessness, you'll have to exchange your life for it, the old man said. Bufang watched as the old man stepped on the boat and drifted toward the depths of the blood mist. His eyes narrowed. Then let me see how strong you, the soul fisherman, are. Bufang's heart thumped. The old man's flute could not break his divine will, which meant that the other party's mental force was not as strong as he had imagined. In that case, he could take a gamble. In order to brew the best wine, Bufang was willing to go all out. He landed and stepped on the river as if he was walking on flat ground. The old man looked at Bufang with a faint smile. The boat gradually dissipated in the hazy blood mist. Suddenly Bufang's eyes narrowed. Then, with a thought, his divine will immediately spread, setting off raging wave. The aura on his body began to rise, reaching the level of a little saint. I want the flower, and I want my life too, Bufang said lightly. The water under his feet exploded, and he turned into a stream of light and arrived in a flash. As Bufang ran wildly, the Acheron River also exploded. He went straight for the soul fisherman's boat. He's crazy. Owner Bu is crazy. How could he attack the soul fisherman? That's a magical flower on the Acheron River. How dare this little chef attack it? Whether it was the people behind the light screen or Fa Wu and the others on the Buddha boat, they were all shocked. They never thought that Bufang would dare to attack the soul fisherman, who made them feel suffocated. The soul fisherman did not seem to expect this either. His eyes narrowed. He flew into a rage. How dare you? How dare you attack me? The soul fisherman was furious. The boat exploded in an instant and blood-colored water splashed everywhere. A terrible aura began to spread, rising inch by inch. Buzz, a powerful, oppressive aura filled the air, suppressing everyone. A ripping sound rang out. With a flick of the fishing rod, the fishing line on it was like a sharp sword, slashing toward Bufang's head. It was as if it wanted to cut Bufang into two halves. Bufang's mind flickered. The dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand. Buzz, the dragon bone kitchen knife shook, and a dragon roar resounded through the sky. Boom! His aura surged. Bufang hovered in midair. The phantom of an overlord emerged behind him, almost materializing. The overlord was holding a knife. The overlord knife cut through the sky. As the knife slashed down, its phantom overlapped. 13 slashes turned into one. Buzz, the knife slashed down and collided with the fishing line. Boom! Bufang's expression changed slightly. He felt the great force coming from the hook. That huge force actually broke through his overlord 13 blades. This old man was very strong, however. Bufang's eyes narrowed. At most, he was a 4th revolution little saint. Bufang had an estimate in his heart, and he immediately became more confident. If he weren't on the forbidden Acheron River, Bufang would have thrown out a perishing pot. Once the perishing pot appeared, it would at least make this old man behave. How dare you? A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. This old man will send you to the afterlife. The old man roared. Bufang looked at him indifferently. His mind sank into his spirit sea. Then, the vermilion robe on Bufang's body suddenly burned with a scarlet flame. The flame soared into the sky, and the scorching heat seemed to burn everything. A bird cry rang out from Bufang's body. Bufang raised his head, his hair fluttering in the wind. A moment later, it turned scarlet as if facing the wind. The flaming wings on his back spread out, gently flapping, and flaming feathers fluttered. Bufang opened his eyes, and there seemed to be flames burning in his pupils. I finally came out for a breath of fresh air. The red-haired Bufang grinned. Hovering in midair, he put his thumb and middle finger together and tapped his lips lightly. On the Buddha ship, Fa Wu looked dumbfounded. Owner Bu changed his hair color again? This time, it's scarlet. I've never seen it before. Gold, white, black, and now red. How many colors is this little chef going to change? Is changing your hair color what you rely on to provoke me? I'll pay you back today. Rumble. The old man held the fishing rod and slapped it hard on the Acheron River. Then, the fishing rod was lifted from the surface of the Acheron River. Walala! Water splashed. The water rolled and turned into a huge blood-colored dragon. It was transformed from the Acheron River, and it was huge, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Wings flapping behind him, red-haired Bufang looked indifferently at the blood-colored water dragon and twitched the corner of his mouth. I hate dragons the most in my life, especially stupid dragons, Bufang said. You're just an old man who picks up trash on the river. How dare you show off dragons in front of me? Bufang's figure became blurry in midair. It was as if he was teleporting, In the blink of an eye, he appeared over the blood-colored water dragon's head. Then, he slapped the dragon's head with his palm, causing it to explode inch by inch. Bufang, a 1 revolution little saint, seemed to be able to fight even a 4th revolution little saint with the artifact spirit possession. Suddenly, a flaming vermilion bird broke free from Bufang's body, roaring and flying away. The old man pulled out another water dragon, which collided with the flaming vermilion bird. The white steam that rose from the river was constantly hazy, causing the scene on the surface of the river to become blurry in an instant. The audience behind the light screen was in an uproar, wailing and wailing, because they couldn't see the battle clearly. They could only see a red beam of light, constantly teleporting. Its speed was too fast for their eyes to follow. The battle seemed to be reaching its climax. Boom, the water splashed. The red-haired Bufang landed on the river, frowning as he looked at the old man in the small boat. Little host is still too weak. Otherwise, I could kill this pretentious fisherman with one slap. He murmured softly. All of a sudden, his red hair faded. His hair turned black once again. Bufang furrowed his brows as he looked at the old man standing on the small boat. Even if he used the artifact's spirit possession and relied on the vermilion bird, he might not be able to defeat that old man. Although the old man wasn't strong, he wasn't as strong as him. Did he have to give up the 9-petal flower of helplessness? If he couldn't find the 9-petal flower of helplessness this time, he wouldn't have a chance to brew Bufang's peerless wine. Thus, Bufang wouldn't give up easily. His eyes focused. Bufang heaved a long sigh. He tiptoed on the river. His figure flew out instantly. Again. "Young man, you won't shed a tear until you see your coffin," the soul fisherman said. However, he had just finished his words. His eyes widened. He saw a dried pot emerge in Bufang's hand. The scorching dried pot floated up and down. There was a high temperature emanating from it and a fragrance lingering in the air. However, what made the soul fisherman's heart beat faster was the terrifying energy fluctuations and pressure emanating from the dried pot were terrifying. That feeling, it made the soul fisherman's hair stand on end. Swish! The small boat suddenly sank. Bufang's figure landed on the boat, just one step away from the old man. Bufang indifferently looked at the old man. 9-petal flower of helplessness. Can you give it to me? If I brew the peerless wine, I'll give you a jar. Bufang looked at the old man and said seriously, "Wine?" This young man wanted the 9-petal flower of helplessness to brew wine? Does this old man look like he's short of wine? The soul fisherman said coldly. Yes, holding the perishing pot in one hand, Bufang pondered for a while before answering. The old man's eyes widened. He wished he could fight Bufang to the death. Suddenly, his eyes shrank. That was because another wok had appeared in Bufang's other hand. Sharp sword energy spread in an instant as if it was going to cut the void. What is this? The old man's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Looking at the sword pot in Bufang's other hand, he shivered. If the perishing pot was only a threat to him, then the sword pot made him feel a terrible aura of death. Enough, the 9-petal flower of helplessness is yours. But you have to keep your word. You must give me a jar of the wine you brew. No one knew if it was because of the power of the perishing pot and the sword pot, or for some other reason. The old man, who had been entangled with Bufang for a long time, suddenly chose to give the 9-petal flower of helplessness to Bufang. This made Bufang a little dazed. This old man. Where's your persistence? You have that dog to back you up. I can't stop you. If you want it, you can take it eventually. The old man put on his bamboo hat again and sat on the boat. Bufang put away the perishing pot and the sword pot, then took the 9-petal flower of helplessness from the old man. Rich spiritual energy rushed into Bufang's body, causing Bufang's eyes to constrict. Compared to a 1-petal flower of helplessness, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. The flower didn't seem precious to the old man. He didn't seem to care much about giving it to Bufang. Bufang got off the boat. The old man sat on it, singing a ballad as he drifted into the blood mist. The leisurely sound of a bone flute drifted out and gradually dissipated. Bufang looked at the old man in the distance and breathed a sigh of relief. He put away the 9-petal flower of helplessness. Bufang planned to walk to the other side of the river. Suddenly, his body froze and he furrowed his brows. He tilted his head slightly. His pupils constricted. Beneath his feet, the white senseless lotus was swaying and stopped. It was blooming with a gentle white light. Senseless lotus, Bufang murmured. Then, he bent down. He raised his hand and gently grabbed the lotus's stem. Thud. The senseless lotus was picked, rumble. After the senseless lotus was picked, Bufang's mind suddenly flickered. He jerked his head up. He looked at the blood mist. There, in the blood mist, a bronze palace swayed and drifted out creak. The tightly closed bronze door of the bronze palace suddenly opened a gap. Through the gap, a pair of eyes stared at Bufang, who was holding the senseless lotus. Acheron Valley. The great sage of the Acheron Valley, who was leisurely playing with a blade of grass, suddenly shivered. He turned his head to look at the Acheron River in disbelief. The grass in his hand was broken by him. The senseless lotus was picked? How could anyone pick the senseless lotus? In front of the cave of the fallen gods, the forbidden land of earth prison, Lord Go, who was about to do something, was shocked. His eyes widened. Bufang, boy. You picked the senseless lotus. Now we're in big trouble. Chapter 1276. The senseless lotus had been floating in the Acheron River for tens of thousands of years, and no one had ever picked it up. Although it looked as if it was within reach, anyone who approached the senseless lotus and wanted to pick it would be cursed with disaster. They would fall before they could even get close. Thus, the senseless lotus had become a synonym for disaster. No one had ever thought that they could pick it. With a crack, the sound of the lotus's stem breaking reverberated. It was crisp and sweet, lingering in the entire space. The surging Acheron River seemed to become calm at this moment, incomparably quiet and tranquil. Everyone behind the light screen was dumbstruck, looking at Bufang in a daze. Just like the Acheron River that had calmed down, it looked extremely tranquil on the surface, but inside, it contained towering waves. All that was left in their hearts was fear. Especially the Earth Prison overlords. Their eyes shrank to the size of soybeans, not knowing how to express their feelings at this moment. The senseless lotus on the Acheron River was picked by someone. Before this, they had never thought that someone could pick the senseless lotus. Looking at the bewildered Bufang on the light screen, holding the white senseless lotus, the faces of the 4 Earth Prison overlords twitched uncontrollably. It's him again, it's this kid again. Why are all these shameful things related to this kid? This matter we have to inform Lord Inglong. Although we don't know much about the senseless lotus, it's something from the Acheron River basin. We don't know if it will arouse the wrath of the great sage of the Acheron River. It's better to inform Lord Inglong. Jin Jiao's mouth twitched as he rubbed the horn on his forehead. But Lord Inglong is watching Lord Hades's situation in the Demon King Pass. Do we really want to tell Lord Inglong? Yin Jiao hugged his gourd, his eyes deep and melancholic. As soon as he said that, Jin Jiao was a little hesitant. Lord Hades was attacking the 18 Demon King Passes. That was something left by the old Hades. Lord Inglong was in charge of taking care of them. If they called Lord Inglong over, who knew what would happen? Forget it, don't worry about it. Let's hurry over. Jin Jiao rubbed his head in distress, but he had yet to make a decision. Yuqi carried the tyrant on her shoulder and shot forward, transforming into a streak of light that disappeared into the horizon. Ah! Yuji! Seeing Yuqi disappear, Yin Jiao's silver robe fluttered as he followed her. Luo Ji shouldered the death god scythe, her pink hair fluttering. After giggling for a while, he tapped his long legs on the ground and his figure shot out. Sure enough, wherever Brother Bufang is around, things are very interesting. Luo Ji's laughter lingered in the air. Jin Jiao looked at the 3 Earth Prison overlords leaving, his face speechless. There was a roar. Then, he rushed out of Forbidden Soul City again. Looking at the senseless lotus in his hand, Bufang couldn't help but narrow his eyes. The senseless lotus was indeed a spirit herb praised by the system. The energy it contained was so rich that Bufang had never seen it before. The explosive impact made Bufang feel a little scared. The senseless lotus bloomed with milky white light, like a piece of warm jade. The dense lotus petals seemed to have fine lines moving, which looked very exquisite. At the center of the white lotus was a milky lotus pod, in which there were lotus seeds that emitted pale gold light. This was the senseless lotus. Boom! After Bufang picked the senseless lotus, the entire Acheron River quieted down. Suddenly, Bufang raised his head and looked into the distance. There, a bronze palace was riding the wind and waves, approaching. The blood-colored river water splashed, and the palace became more and more obvious in the blood mist, emitting fluctuations that made people's hearts palpitate. The palace was huge, floating in the Acheron River. Squeak! It was a sound that seemed to come from ancient times. Bufang's mind trembled. His eyes shot out an incredible light. There was an eye in the crack of the bronze door, staring at him. What kind of eye was that? It seemed that chaos was born in it, and sometimes, emptiness was destroyed in it. What a terrifying feeling! At that moment, Bufang felt that his divine will was about to collapse. Under the gaze of that eye, in his spirit sea, the golden divine dragon trembled. The vermilion bird clenched its wings. Even the white tiger was no longer arrogant. It lowered its head. And the black turtle, who had been sleeping with its eyes closed, opened its eyes wide and let out a low roar, because Bufang was immersed in the chaos in that eye. He did not sense this strange phenomenon. The system was silent and did not make a sound. It seemed that under the gaze of that eye, the system was quiet and did not speak. What was going on? Bufang had never felt like this before. It was as if he had been stripped naked, and all his secrets could not be hidden. She was being stared at by others. "It's him," the black turtle's deep voice rang out. Then, he slowly fell silent again. It was as if that man's name was a taboo, and he dared not say it. Buzz, a hazy blood mist enveloped them. The Buddha ship disappeared. Fa Wu and the others drifted away, and when they came back to their senses, they were already gone. When they came to their senses, their ship had sailed out of the blood mist. Amitabha, the senseless lotus and the bronze palace. I have an intuition that there is a connection between the two. Owner Bu has done something incredible. Fa Wu put his palms together and looked at the hazy blood mist with a conflicted look on his face. The Earth prison ship continued to sail. Then, both of them landed on the shore. Suddenly, they found that their ship had reached the other side of the Acheron River. However, that fearsome little chef had completely fallen into the blood mist. Was he going to die? "Who are you?" Bufang stared at the pair of eyes in the bronze palace, took a deep breath, and said expressionlessly. His voice rang out in the hazy blood mist, but it kept echoing. No one answered him. Only the sound of the bronze palace approaching could be heard. That voice was like an invisible hand that was constantly approaching in the darkness. It made people feel as if all their pores were about to explode. Through the light screen, all the people who saw it took a deep breath. Suddenly, the eye in the bronze palace shifted its gaze. Suddenly, the eyeballs moved. All the people through the light screen went into an uproar. They were all startled. As soon as the eyeballs moved, they seemed to see each and every one of them through the light screen. It was as if a nightmare had been planted in their hearts, scaring them so much that their legs turned to jelly. There was no doubt that there was a great, terrible existence in the bronze palace. Many experts from the small worlds were horrified. Sizzle, suddenly, the light screen became blurry. There were actually some lightning arcs dancing on it. Soon, the whole light screen became hazy, making it impossible for people to see what was inside. The scene was transmitted to all the surrounding small world. Everyone was extremely shocked. What exactly is in the bronze palace on the Acheron River? And what kind of existence did that little chef provoke by picking the senseless lotus? In Nether Prison in the D Ting clan's land, An expert shrouded in black mist looked at the light screen shrouded in lightning arcs, and his eyes narrowed. This feeling? Impossible. This guy can't be still alive. Great Sage Acheron floated in midair, his white hair waving in the wind. He was a young man who looked like an 18-year-old, but his eyes were full of vicissitudes of life, as if he had experienced countless years. Great Sage Acheron was hovering in midair, looking straight at the Acheron River, at the hazy blood mist, and at it. His eyes were shining brightly, and there seemed to be a vague small world emerging over his head. The small world floated up and down as if to oppress this part of the world. The senseless lotus appeared in the Acheron River 10,000 years ago. It was like a key that no one could get, but today someone picked it. Did I wait for the fated person, or did I wait for a scapegoat? Great Sage Acheron had a deep look in his eyes. The next moment, he twisted his body. He began to walk slowly toward the Acheron River. Bronze Palace. I, the Great Sage, have been neighbors for 10,000 years. Today I'd like to see your true face. In the Cave of the Fallen Gods, a forbidden land in Earth prison, it was a zone shrouded in pitch-black nether energy. Lord Go's chubby figure was standing upright on the broken bluestone road outside the Cave of the Fallen Gods. He seemed to be sensing something. Suddenly, a creak rang out. The dilapidated door of the Cave of the Fallen Gods opened. A ghostly fire that seemed to be burning emerged from it. Then, a skeleton in armor walked out of the door. The armor shone with a golden light, as if it was blooming with the ultimate brilliance, attracting all eyes. However, for such a mighty armor to be worn by a skeleton, it felt a little strange. Crack, crack, crack through the door, Bufang looked into the Cave of the Fallen Gods. He could see that it was a vast grotto, and the grotto was densely packed with tombstones. Some of the tombstones were shaking, and from them, skeletons were slowly climbing out of the ground. The armored skeleton, who had just climbed out of the grotto, saw Lord Go. The ghostly fire in his empty eye sockets flickered. Then, he let out a hissing scream. "It's you again, mangy dog. What do you want? How dare you steal the treasures of my Cave of the Fallen Gods?" Lord Go froze. His fat shook, and a look of embarrassment came over his face. "I didn't pay attention, and I was discovered." Lord Dog's nose twitched. Then, it turned around, leaving its chubby dog but to the skeleton. Then, it left, leaving a trail of dust behind it. "Lord Go happened to pass by, and I'm going to greet an old friend. Lord Go is leaving now to find Bufang Boy." The ghostly fire in the armored skeleton's eyes blazed. "Mangy dog. Only a ghost would believe you. You want to steal the treasure of my Cave of the Fallen Gods again? No way." After saying that, the door behind the skeleton flung open. Crack, 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 skeletons clad in armor immediately swarmed out from within. A terrible aura of death filled the air. However, at this moment, Lord Go had already disappeared. The Bronze Palace was getting closer and closer. Finally, it was in front of Bufang. A gust of cold wind blew over, causing Bufang's hair to flutter unceasingly. His cold eyes gazed at Bufang, making Bufang feel cold all over. Squeak! The gap in the bronze door widened. Sizzle! Sizzle! Bufang's eyes shrank. Something evil seemed to surge out from behind the door. A wisp of aura came out, as if it wanted to destroy the illusionary void. The terrifying power made Bufang shiver. This feeling was as if he was facing true death. This bronze door was different from the bronze door in the Hidden Dragon continent. It was totally different. After 10,000 years, you're finally here. The key to the door has finally been taken by the Destined One. A voice arose from behind the bronze door. That voice was like silk, whispering in Bufang's ears. However, Bufang couldn't tell if the owner of the voice was a man or a woman. "Who are you?" Bufang asked one more time. However, the voice didn't answer. Bufang seemed to hear a sigh. That sigh contained reluctance, helplessness, and anguish. Today you open the door for me. But in the future, who will open the door for you? The voice whispered. It was a little lonely, a little indignant, and even a terrible obsession to destroy everything. Bufang's eyes shrank. It was the first time he had ever felt so frightened. Swish, all of a sudden, the hazy blood mist suddenly dispersed. A figure shrouded in light slowly walked over from outside. Bufang struggled to turn his neck, looking over. He saw an 18-year-old young man with peerless talent. The young man had white hair, and the corners of his mouth curved into a smile as he walked over leisurely. He held a blade of grass in his hand. That blade of grass had 9 leaves, emitting immense essence energy. Old neighbor, it's been 10,000 years. It's not easy to meet you. Great Sage Acheron looked straight at the bronze gate, talking and laughing. With one hand clasped behind his back and the other holding the blade of grass, Great Sage Acheron floated over. His feet stepped on the surface of the Acheron River. His steps didn't cause any ripples. All of a sudden Great Sage Acheron approached the bronze palace. An invisible barrier suddenly appeared in front of him. Old neighbor, you're really not friendly, Great Sage Acheron said with a smile. Then, he raised his hand. Over his palm, there seemed to be extinguishing energy surging. His palm slapped toward the invisible barrier, as if he wanted to break it. The eyes in the bronze palace turned. They fell on Great Sage Acheron. A cold death energy suddenly shrouded him. In a flash, it covered Great Sage Acheron's body. Great Sage Acheron, who had been contented, suddenly stiffened. Get lost. A voice that belonged to either a man or a woman rang out. A moment later, slap. A palm flew out of the bronze palace. That palm flew fast, slapping Great Sage Acheron's face. Slap. Great Sage Acheron flew backward, blood spurting from his nostrils. He was slapped into a blood mist. Bufang expressionlessly looked at Great Sage Acheron, who was slapped away. The corner of his mouth twitched. This fellow. Who hired this idiot? Outside the blood mist, the void was torn. The fat on Lord Go's body shivered as it emerged. Just in time to see a figure flying out of the blood mist. Lord Go was bewildered. He raised his paw, about to paw. Chapter 1277. Wait. It's me. Great Sage Acheron stopped. Holding the grass, the corners of his mouth twitched as he shouted. There was a bright red handprint on his face. Lord Dog was stunned. The paw that was originally raised also stopped. That was because he felt that the voice was very familiar. How come it's you, old man? Finally, Lord Go saw the appearance of Great Sage Acheron. He widened his eyes in disbelief. This old man seemed to have been sent flying out of the blood mist. Was there an existence in Earth Prison that could send this old man flying? Cough, cough. I was sent out by my old neighbor. Great Sage Acheron was embarrassed, but he also felt wronged. He, the mighty yellow spring Great Sage, was slapped by someone, and the palm print was still on his face. What could he say? That neighbor of 10,000 years didn't care about friendship at all. By the way, mangy dog, the little fellow you used to protect is in the blood mist. With my chi-observing technique, I can see that the little fellow's glabella is dark and filled with a bloody light. I'm afraid he's going to be plagued by misfortune. It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. Great Sage Acheron said seriously, wiping the blood from his nostrils. Lord Go glanced at Great Sage Acheron and rolled his eyes. This old man was trying to persuade him to go in. However, Lord Go really wanted to go in. That kid Bufang had fallen into such a dangerous place, and the enemy could send Great Sage Acheron flying with a slap. It meant that the existence Bufang was facing now was not ordinary. Sigh. This kid Bufang is really troublesome. Lord Dog sighed, and the fat on his body trembled. Then, with graceful cat-like steps, he slowly walked toward the blood mist. After a while, his figure disappeared into the hazy blood mist. Great sage Acheron watched as Lord Go disappeared. He rubbed his face, which had been slapped by Lord Go, and heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he followed behind Lord Go. The great sage Acheron met his old neighbor again. Naturally, Bufang did not know that the person who had just been slapped away was the great sage Acheron. However, he could still feel the terror of the existence in the bronze palace. Just the look alone made him shiver. System, do you know who he is? The mysterious owner of the bronze palace. Bufang looked at the bronze palace expressionlessly and met its gaze. In his heart, however, he kept asking the system questions. However, the system did not make a sound at all, as if it had gone completely silent. This kind of situation shocked Bufang's mind. How was this possible? Why did it feel like the system was hiding from the owner of this bronze palace? What happened? What happened? Who was the owner of this bronze palace? You're too weak now. But sooner or later you will be like me. That pair of eyes seemed to be filled with chaos, which could make people sink into it. The voice of a man and a woman arose. Then, the bronze palace's gate opened wider. Sizzle, a pitch-black energy seeped out of the palace. That pitch-black energy was not nether energy. It seemed to be a very evil energy. That energy made Bufang's heart beat faster. It looked like a disaster in the legends. Buzz, the senseless lotus in his hand, suddenly became boiling hot, breaking free from Bufang's hand. It hovered between Bufang and the bronze palace, emitting immense energy and light. Bufang's eyes shrank, gazing at the senseless lotus. A moment later, in Bufang's disbelieving eyes, a hand stretched out of the bronze palace. It was an almost perfect hand. It was well-proportioned, beautiful, and perfectly proportioned. There was not a single flaw. It was soft and beautiful, but full of power. The skin was fair like white jade, without any impurities. It was as if there were no pores, perfectly round and perfect. Each finger was slender, like a work of art carefully crafted by the heavens. It was so perfect that it made people feel ashamed. The hand stretched out, holding the senseless lotus. Buzz, all of a sudden, inside the senseless lotus, 9 golden lotus seeds suddenly flew out and landed in the palm of the perfect arm. Then, the hand slowly retracted into the bronze palace. The senseless lotus is for you. Make it into a dish, and it can help you avoid a disaster. The voice in the bronze palace said. Bufang was in a trance. The senseless lotus suddenly floated over. A moment later, it dissipated in front of his eyes, disappearing. Bufang's eyes suddenly focused. Because he found that in the heaven and earth farmland, the senseless lotus was actually floating there. It kept flying and finally landed on the myriad treasures heaven tree. The senseless lotus fell on the myriad treasures heaven tree, as if it had taken root. It was perfectly round and flawless, as if the senseless lotus should have grown on the myriad treasures heaven tree. What was going on? Boom! In the heaven and earth farmland, suddenly, a big change happened. Nyo Han-san, wearing his crystal glasses, hurried out of the wooden house and happened to see this incredible scene. At this moment, the spirit energy of the entire heaven and earth farmland suddenly rose. In the blink of an eye, the entire heaven and earth farmland expanded again. Yu, holding little Hu, stared blankly at the scene, as if she couldn't believe it. In the heaven and earth farmland, spirit herbs bloomed, flowers bloomed, and seedlings grew. There seemed to be many strange phenomena being born. The entire farmland seemed to have been upgraded to a new level. What the F***ck? What did Owner Bu do this time? Nyo Han-san took off his glasses and his eyes widened. He felt that the heaven and earth farmland's will of the great path seemed to have become stronger. Bufang withdrew his mind. His eyes were fixed on the existence of the bronze palace. All of a sudden, Bufang's mind shook, and he turned his head to look. There, 2 figures emerged. The Lord Go was walking like a cat, and the great sage Acheron, who had been slapped away. The expert in the bronze palace also saw the Lord Go and the great sage Acheron. However, he just glanced at them, then withdrew his eyes. In the end, the eyes in the bronze palace stared at Bufang again. "I'm leaving. Next time we meet, I hope you can surprise me." The voice of a man and a woman rang out. Finally, the bronze door opened with a loud bang. Buzz, terrifying energy gushed out from the bronze palace. Before the Lord Go and the great sage Acheron could get close, their faces changed dramatically. A dog barked. It seemed to be roaring in the sky. The Lord Go's figure flew over. The exquisite dog paw suddenly enlarged, wrapping Bufang inside. Carrying Bufang, it flew out of the Acheron River. "This kind of power. My neighbor is incredible," the great sage Acheron muttered. Light shone brightly. There seemed to be a figure emerging from the bronze door. That peerless figure floated out, slowly disappearing into the depths of the void. Fine cracks slowly appeared on the bronze palace. Eventually, it lost its radiance, shrouded in dust, and became dim. Rumble! The Acheron River surged again. At the same time, the lightning covering the light curtain dispersed. Everybody could see the situation in the Acheron River. Many people widened their eyes in disbelief. However, they found that there was nothing there anymore. There was only an old, dilapidated bronze palace floating. Bufang looked at the dilapidated bronze palace, feeling bewildered. At this moment, the bronze palace was exactly the same as the one in the Hidden Dragon continent. It was also dilapidated, and it had lost its terrifying pressure. Perhaps the bronze palace in the Hidden Dragon continent used to have such earth-shaking pressure, which contained an unparalleled existence. However, in the long river of time, the existence in the bronze palace was the same as today. Someone took the key and opened the door, allowing that unparalleled existence to leave. The blood mist slowly dispersed. The Acheron River resumed its original appearance. The vermilion robe on Bufang's body fluttered. Swish! Lord Go brought Bufang and landed on the banks of the Acheron River. "Kid, you're really lucky. That fluctuation just now. Even I, Lord Go, felt my heart beat faster." "Who was that guy?" Lord Go said, grinning. Bufang shook his head. He didn't know who it was. But he believed that they would meet again in the future. At that time, he must see that guy's true face. He had a feeling that the other was someone he had to meet on his way to becoming the god of cooking. He couldn't hide. He couldn't avoid it. Rumble! In the sky of Earth Prison, a rumbling sound could be heard. Lord Go and the great sage Acheron raised their heads to look, their eyes narrowing. Sure enough, it can't be hidden. "Those old fellows in Nether Prison also felt it," Lord Go said, raising his head to look at the sky. The great sage Acheron nodded. "I can't believe Nether Prison held the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path this time, and they even put the competition in the territory under my jurisdiction. Nether Prison is stirring up trouble," said the great sage Acheron. "Don't tell me those old fellows have taken a fancy to the 9-leaf Acheron grass planted by me, the great sage?" The great sage Acheron's face suddenly twisted. At the mention of the 9-leaf Acheron grass, Bufang suddenly glanced at the great sage Acheron. "Bufang boy, go on with the competition." "I, Lord Go, have something to do," Lord Go said, glancing at Bufang. Bufang nodded. "You'd better be careful. Nether Prison is not a good guy. This competition is not simple," Lord Go said seriously. Bufang nodded again. Then, Lord Go tore the void and disappeared once again. The great sage Acheron glanced at Bufang with the grass in his hand. Suddenly, he found that Bufang was staring at the 9-leaf Acheron grass in his hand. "Little fellow, don't look at it. Otherwise, I don't mind feeding you to my torch dragon." The great sage Acheron held the grass warily and threatened Bufang. Then, he turned into a beam of light and sped away in a flash. Watching the great sage Acheron disappear, Bufang felt a little pity. If he could get the 9-leaf Acheron grass, he would have a chance to brew the best wine in the world. "It seems that I have to find a way to get this 9-leaf Acheron grass," Bufang thought to himself. The town of Acheron. It was a desolate town with few people living in it. Outside the town was a vast open space. Fa Wu and Fa Shang stood quietly where they were. There were only 2 contestants left in the Earth Prison team, and both of them stood with unsightly faces. The others were all dead. One had to admit that this semi-final was indeed cruel. Fa Wu turned his head and looked into the distance, as if he was expecting something. A gust of wind blew over, stirring up the yellow sand. Soon in the middle of the sand a figure slowly walked over. His thin and slender figure seemed a little frail under the blowing of the wind and sand. It's Owner Bu. Fa Wu's eyes lit up, and Fa Shang was pleasantly surprised. The experts of the Earth Prison team took a deep breath. Behind the light screen, all the people who saw Bufang couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. It never occurred to them that Bufang could walk out of the Acheron River alive. The Bronze Palace had given them an extremely oppressive feeling. It was as if the existence in it could kill them with just a glance, which made them shiver all over. They all thought that Bufang would die in the face of such an existence. However, Bufang had walked out alive. What exactly happened in there? Everyone was curious. When Bufang came to the town, he gave Fa Wu and the 2 surviving members of the Earth Prison team a puzzled look. "Why don't you go in?" Bufang asked. "We're waiting for you." Fa Wu smiled and looked at Bufang with mixed emotions. He had thought that Bufang was just an ordinary chef from the Heaven Chief realm. He never thought that Owner Bu could not only cook super delicious dishes, but also be so mysterious. He could actually pick the senseless lotus. Wait. The senseless lotus? Fa Wu's eyes suddenly froze, and his breathing became a little rapid. The senseless lotus. How could such a divine item be in the hands of this little chef? An innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. Owner Bu is in trouble. Buzz, just as they were chatting, a light suddenly flashed in front of the town. In the next moment, several figures appeared in the small town. Jin Jiao, Yin Jiao, and the other Earth Prison overlords walked out of the town and looked at Bufang with complicated expressions. First of all, congratulations on arriving at the town of Acheron. Now we will examine the Jade Plates, Goddess City. At the summit of God Vanishing Mountain, a white-robed ice saint sat cross-legged on a big rock, holding an ice cream in her hand and eating it. Suddenly, her eyes narrowed as if she was looking through a long river. The senseless lotus has been picked. Has that man escaped? Forget it. It's been so many years, and the senseless lotus means nothing to me. I'll give up. Ice Saint pondered for a while, then continued to eat her ice cream. In the cave of the fallen gods, the gate opened. A skeleton clad in golden armor slowly walked out of it. The senseless lotus has been born. We must bring back such a divine item. In the Black Temple, a forbidden land of Earth Prison, a figure wrapped in a black robe slowly walked out of the pitch-black majestic palace. Bring back the senseless lotus. That's the hope of our Black Temple. A hoarse voice could be heard from the Black Palace. For a moment, the whole Earth Prison was in turmoil. Chapter 1278. Now, take out your jade plates. If you want to enter Acheron town, you must have the black and white jade plates, Jin Jiao said, standing in front of the entrance of Acheron town. Jin Jiao's burly body stood in front of the yellow spring town's entrance, glancing at Bufang and the others. In fact, there weren't many people left. Looking at the 5 people present, Jin Jiao couldn't help but fall silent. The Winged Man Valley was wiped out. The Abyss was wiped out. The West Little Buddhism realm was almost wiped out. The Earth Prison team was almost wiped out at the last moment. Although he knew the semifinals would be cruel, he didn't expect it to be this cruel. Can you wait a little longer? Bufang asked Jin Jiao, as if he had thought of something. Jin Jiao paused. Fa Wu and the others also looked at him in confusion. Suddenly, everyone seemed to sense something, and they all looked up into the distance. There, in the surging Acheron River, a wooden boat was sailing unsteadily toward them. Then, from the simple and crude wooden boat, 4 figures actually climbed out with great difficulty. Oh! All the people present froze. Not only them, but even the people watching through the light screen sucked in a cold breath. They were no strangers to the group of people who had climbed out of the wooden boat. They were the other contestants of the Heaven Chief realm. They were Zhu Yan, Mo Yan, Fang Yu, and Xianyuan Shehui. These 4 little fellows, who were only 6-star true immortals, had broken through the dense forest and crossed the Acheron River? They were still alive? Well, they're here. When Bufang saw them, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly as he said in a soft voice. Then, with a thought, he tore the void apart. The void was torn apart. Bufang reached into it, grabbed 2 jade plates, 1 black and 1 white, and threw them out casually. The 2 jade plates flew out and fell into Jin Jiao's hand. Good. The black and white jade plates and the Heaven Chief realm will advance. Jin Jiao scanned the 2 jade plates with his divine sense, and his face suddenly became serious. His voice resounded throughout the small town. In the distance, Zhu Yan and the others walked over with difficulty. Each of them was limping and looked quite miserable. His body was full of scars, and he looked miserable. Fang Yu had lost an arm. However, their auras had become much stronger. Zhu Yan and Xianyuan Shehui also made great breakthroughs. Both of them reached the 9-star true immortal realm. This slightly surprised Bufang. Evidently, they had obtained quite a few fortuitous encounters along the way. From the looks of it, they were a lot more confident. Although it had been dangerous along the way, it had been accompanied by opportunities. To be able to obtain this opportunity, their efforts were worth it. The injuries they had suffered were not even worth mentioning. With a thought, Fa Wu also took out the black and white jade plates. With Fa Wu's strength, it was not surprising that he had obtained the jade plate. Hell's experts handed over their jade plates as well. It just so happened that the remaining 3 teams would advance to the next round, and there would be less difficulty in choosing. Jin Jiao nodded and glanced at the crowd with a somewhat oppressive look. Congratulations on passing the semi-finals and advancing to the finals of the team competition. The finals will be held in Nether Prison, but before that, you must survive the individual competition. Jin Jiao said. His voice was somewhat deep in thought. There will be Nether Prison geniuses participating in the individual competition. I hope you can survive the Nether Prison geniuses. When he had finished speaking, Jin Jiao turned sideways. The 2 experts from the Earth Prison pondered for a while, then shot into it. Fa Wu and Bufang exchanged a few words with a smile and also entered Acheron town. Zhu Yan and the others came to Bufang's side, and their eyes looked much more confident. Come, let's enter Acheron town, Bufang said. The others nodded. Then, the 5 of them slowly stepped into Acheron town. On the light screen, everyone was silent. They found that the Heaven Chief's team was the only team that had all 5 of its members survive the semi-finals. This was simply inconceivable. The Heaven Chief realm was very lucky to have a genius like Bufang. Acheron town, it used to be desolate. But now, because of the competition, it had become lively all of a sudden. Moreover, there was a teleportation array in the town, which was prepared for the Nether Prison experts. Bufang and the others entered Acheron town. An inn had been built in the town, which was specially prepared for the contestants. Bufang and the others followed the route and came to the inn that belonged to them. Zhu Yan and the others only said a few words to Bufang, then went into their rooms to recover from their injuries and summarize their experience. Bufang was a little tired. He lay on the bed, and his whole body suddenly relaxed. The pressure from the experts in the Bronze Palace made his divine will faintly feel like collapsing. The strength of the opponents was absolutely formidable. Moreover, Bufang had a feeling that he would meet them again in the future. At that time, he would certainly meet them again. Lying on the bed, Bufang didn't think about the dish this time. Instead, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. He wanted to have a good rest. Earth prison became turbulent because of the senseless lotus being picked. The forbidden lands of Earth prison had always been under the attention of many forbidden lands. Now, experts from the Black Temple and the Cave of the Fallen Gods had come out of Earth prison, which naturally attracted the attention of many powers. Not only Earth prison, but also Nether prison. They were all concerned about the experts from the Forbidden Lands, so they naturally became restless. After learning about it, many people learned that the senseless lotus had been obtained. This news also caused an uproar among the crowd. Many powers in Earth prison also sent experts to compete for the senseless lotus, just like the Forbidden Lands. They had to fight for the senseless lotus so that it didn't fall into the hands of the experts from the Forbidden Lands. For a moment, the whole of Earth prison was stirred up. Countless experts were on the move. They sped toward the town of Acheron. There seemed to be a surging killing intent rushing toward the town of Acheron. In Earth prison, boom! A pure and holy beam of light suddenly fell from the sky. The whole ground shook violently. Then, the ground cracked and crumbled. A huge ball of light emerged over the ground. Then, the ball of light slowly shattered, as if it was raining light. The energy of the light ball dispersed, drifting in the surroundings, causing the surrounding vegetation to be enveloped in a holy and pure aura. Voila! 2 pairs of white wings suddenly spread out, and feathers fluttered in the air. His golden hair fluttered in the wind, revealing a handsome face that was filled with warmth and sunshine. He was a holy winged man clad in silver armor. His aura was very terrifying. How dare he kill his lordship's grandson? How reckless! But that boy had the help of his lordship's clone. How could he be killed? It seems that I have to observe first. The man thought for a moment, the corners of his mouth twitching. However, according to the information, the one who killed that boy is just a 1-star little saint. Moreover, it's a little saint who got the senseless lotus. This time, I have to fight for the senseless lotus. I'm so tired. I wanted to have a good vacation. The man rubbed his golden hair, his handsome face showing a trace of helplessness. Then, the 2 pairs of wings on his back flapped. His body instantly turned into a beam of light, zooming away, disappearing into the horizon. The night passed quickly. In the inn, the sound of even breathing could be heard. All of a sudden, Bufang opened his eyes. He gently exhaled, sitting up on the bed. He rubbed his head, his eyes a little drowsy. He walked to the window and opened it. Fresh air blew in, and the sunlight shone through the window, bringing a little warmth. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched. His mind flickered. He entered the heaven and earth farmland. Buzz, as soon as he entered the heaven and earth farmland, Bufang felt the surging heaven and earth spirit energy constantly pouring into his meridians like a surging flood. This feeling made him extremely astonished. How could the heaven and earth spirit energy in the heaven and earth farmland be so dense? Oh, Owner Bu, you're finally here. As soon as Bufang entered the heaven and earth farmland, a cry of surprise came from a distance. Nyo Han-san ran over. Did you do something big outside? Nyo Han-san asked, glaring. He was excited, very excited. The changes in the heaven and earth farmland made his heart surge. After all, his current honor and disgrace were linked to the farmland. Bufang didn't say anything. He walked in the heaven and earth farmland. Soon, he came in front of the myriad treasures heaven tree. Looking at the senseless lotus quietly growing on the myriad treasures heaven tree, Bufang's face suddenly became strange. So compatible? Could it be that the myriad treasures heaven tree and the senseless lotus were originally one? And the mysterious existence in the bronze palace said that if this senseless lotus was made into a dish, it could help Bufang avoid a disaster. What was the disaster that mysterious existence in the bronze palace mentioned? Bufang looked at the senseless lotus, his eyes deep. you and the others also came over. Bufang didn't stay in the heaven and earth farmland for too long. Soon, he took you and left the farmland. Today, Bufang didn't plan to cook. He left the inn with you and walked toward the town square. Today was the individual competition. Zhu Yan and the others had been eliminated in the individual competition, so they didn't leave the room. He continued to conclude that this fortuitous encounter was too fulfilling for them. In the square, there weren't many people. More than half of the participants in Earth Prison had fallen in the team competition. Today, there were less than 20 or 30 people in the individual competition. The rest had all fallen in the team competition. The Wandering Soul Realm experts looked at Bufang with horror in their eyes. The experts from the other small worlds looked at Bufang and didn't dare to be presumptuous. Now, in this Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path, Bufang was on the verge of becoming the strongest. Of course, there were still Fa Wu and the Earth Prison expert. They might become strong competitors for Bufang. Buzz in the distance of the arena, there was a huge formation set up there. At this moment, several Earth Prison overlords stood around the array, their eyes deep. The formation flickered with brilliance. Soon, streams of light surged out of it. The array was operating. Someone was about to be teleported over. Many people were silent. They knew that the person being teleported over would be the Nether Prison contestants in the individual competition. Of course, these contestants were only part of the Nether Prison contestant. They were Nether Prison's second-best team. This time, the semi-finals of the individual competition would select 10 people to enter the final. They would step into Nether Prison and compete with the real geniuses of the 9 clans. Everyone was in awe of the Nether Prison geniuses. Bufang took you to look at the array from a distance. Of course, Bufang's mind was not on the array. Because he was too tired yesterday, he fell asleep as soon as he lay in bed and didn't have time to think about how to get the 9-leaf Acheron grass from the great sage Acheron. If Bufang wanted to brew the best wine, 9-leaf Acheron grass was indispensable. So at this moment, Bufang touched his chin and was lost in thought. Buzz, the array swept out. Beams of light shot into the sky. Soon, numerous figures floated out from the formation. The experts around the array were in an uproar. Fa Wu put his palms together, his eyes gleaming. He had long wanted to see the Nether Prison geniuses. Rumbled blasts of air spread in all directions. The light from the formation began to disperse. The silhouette of the person in the formation gradually appeared. Everyone stared at the array. 10 figures gradually became clear. An uproar immediately rang through the whole town of Acheron. Everyone knew that Nether Prison had sent 10 people down, and they were the second echelon of Nether Prison. However, in this individual competition, only 10 people could enter Nether Prison for the finals. It was meaningful that Nether Prison sent 10 people. Did they plan to take the top 10 in the semifinals? Boom! The 10 people landed on the ground. Their eyes snapped open. They all crossed their arms over their chests, their faces cold and arrogant as they glanced indifferently at the audience. A terrifying aura suddenly spread out, causing everyone present to feel a wave of pressure. So strong. The pupils of an Earth Prison contestant who survived the team competition constricted. These 10 Nether Prison contestants released their auras without reservation, and even the weakest among them had reached the level of a second revolution little saint. This kind of cultivation base simply crushed everyone present. The contestants of this Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path had a specific age requirement. They had to be the top geniuses of the younger generation in their respective small world. They thought the leader of the Winged Man Valley was already a top genius. However, compared with the Nether Prison geniuses, he was completely crushed. Oh, it's so lively here. A Nether Prison genius rolled his eyes and said faintly, "What's the point of being lively? They're all trash." Another Nether Prison genius smiled faintly. The leading Nether Prison expert glanced around. The pressure coming from him silenced everyone. This expert's cultivation base was too terrifying. He had reached the level of a 3-revolution little saint. This kind of cultivation base was comparable to that of the experts of the older generation. I heard that one of your contestants got the senseless lotus. You're lucky. Tell me, where is that man? Tell him to come to me and hand over the senseless lotus. I can spare his life. The leading nether prison expert grinned, and a terrible aura exploded out of him. A fierce aura swept across the audience. Swoosh! In an instant, the contestants' faces changed, and they all turned their eyes to Bufang. Many of them even had a playful look on their faces. At this moment, Bufang was stroking his chin and thinking about how to pick the 9-leaf acheron grass from the great sage Acheron. The nether prison expert followed the crowd's gaze and found Bufang. The sound of heavy footsteps rang out. Then, the nether prison expert appeared in front of Bufang. He looked down at Bufang with a playful look on his face. Chapter 1279. The whole place was silent, and everyone held their breath. Everyone looked at Bufang with sympathy in their eyes. No one expected that the first thing the nether prison experts did when they arrived was to find trouble with Bufang. Although these people were only the second echelon of nether prison, for many people present, they were almost invincible existences. Even the weakest among them was a 2-stage professional little saint, which made many people despair. His condescending gaze brought with it a majestic sense of oppression. That oppression brought Bufang back to his senses from his contemplation. There seemed to be a flash of doubt in his eyes as he looked at the tall powerhouse. "What did you just say?" Bufang asked with a straight face. "I said, hand over the senseless lotus, and I'll spare your life." The nether prison expert grinned, revealing his white teeth. That smile made people feel a chill rise from the soles of their feet. "Oh," Bufang said. Bufang's answer stunned everyone, and then many people's faces became strange. What kind of answer was that? What did he mean by "oh"? Many people widened their eyes and stared at him. The nether prison experts were also stunned, and then they all laughed coldly. "Boy, you're tactful." After that, the nether prison expert stretched out his fan-like palm and hovered in front of Bufang. "Hand over the senseless lotus. I've long heard the rumors about it. I came to Earth Prison this time to see it, but I didn't expect you to beat me to it. But what's mine will be mine, and what's not mine will still be mine," the nether prison expert said. His eyes were full of pressure as he stared at Bufang. A terrible aura was released from his body, and everyone present felt their hearts tremble. The people of nether prison were really overbearing. It made sense. As the overlord, nether prison looked down on people from other small world. It was normal for them to be overbearing. However, everyone couldn't help but feel indignant in their hearts. The senseless lotus. I can't take it out. Bufang thought for a while and said seriously. He was telling the truth because the senseless lotus seemed to have taken root on the treasure heaven tree and could not be picked at all. Bufang did not want to pick it either. Therefore, when Bufang said that he couldn't take it out, he wasn't bluffing. However, the nether prison experts did not think so. "You can't take it out? Did you eat it?" The nether prison expert narrowed his eyes, and there seemed to be lightning bursting in them. "Then spit it out." Boom! The nether prison expert's aura suddenly changed, becoming boundlessly domineering. The palm that was originally hovering in front of Bufang suddenly slapped toward Bufang's head, as if it wanted to smash Bufang's head. Wah! This scene caused everyone's eyes to shrink involuntarily as they sucked in a breath of cold air. This nether prison expert was too overbearing. He actually attacked at the slightest disagreement. That backhanded palm seemed to have turned into a sharp longsword, and a terrifying sword aura burst forth from it. It was as if he wanted to kill Bufang in an instant. He's an expert from the Sword Demon clan, which ranks 5th among the 9 clans in Nether Prison. Someone recognized the man at once when he saw the Nether Prison expert's attack. This method was too representative. Terrible sword energy burst forth, and the palm seemed to have turned into a divine sword that could cut through iron as if it were mud, slashing toward Bufang's head as if he wanted to cut Bufang in half. Fa Wu, who was standing not far from Bufang, narrowed his eyes. Then, he put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. His aura suddenly burst forth. However, as soon as his aura burst forth, it stopped. When he saw that Bufang was unmoved by the palm, his heart skipped a beat. Die. You're just like an ant. That Nether Prison expert laughed maniacally as his sword palm swept out. The sharp sword energy seemed as though it was going to cut the ground apart. The other Nether Prison experts behind him also sneered at this moment. It was as if they were watching a good show. They're trying to show off their strength. The moment they arrived, they came looking for someone to take the lead, just to dampen our morale. They're too overbearing. But they have the capital to be so overbearing. The surrounding people all revealed a helpless look. They simply had no other way. What could they do in the face of this overbearing Nether Prison expert? Buzz, the air was so oppressive that it let out a whine. The velvet rope that tied Bufang's hair suddenly broke at this moment. The palm kept approaching, and it was getting closer and closer. As it got closer and closer to Bufang's face, the terrible sword energy seemed to cut the skin on Bufang's face. 2 inches, 1 inch, half an inch. Bufang was unmoved, his face expressionless. The Nether Prison expert grinned hideously. Die. The palm was finally about to land on Bufang's head. If this palm landed, Bufang's entire head would probably explode. In the eyes of the Nether Prison expert, Bufang's cultivation base was just a first revolution little saint. In his eyes, this kind of cultivation base was no different from an ant. Suddenly, the Nether Prison expert's wild laughter came to an abrupt halt. The laughter around them also stopped. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. A rainbow-colored dumpling suddenly appeared in front of the Sword Fiend clan expert who had struck out with his palm. In the next instant, Bufang stretched out a finger and poked the dumpling. With a bang, the dumpling exploded. A rainbow-colored light surged, enveloping the Nether Prison expert. What is this? The other Nether Prison experts were shocked. One of them even narrowed his eyes, revealing a somewhat solemn look. What is that? I think I saw a dumpling just now. An expert with magma surging under his skin looked at an expert wrapped in a chef's robe and asked. I don't know, the expert shook his head. Aren't you from the Nether Chef clan? Aren't you the best at cooking? How could you not recognize this dumpling? The expert with magma surging under his skin sucked in a cold breath. Fa Wu's eyes lit up instantly. Sure enough, Owner Bu is not the kind of person who will easily suffer a loss. Owner Bu is going to fight back. What is this? The experts of the Sword Demon clan roared in horror. However, as soon as he roared, he was horrified to find that he could not move his body, and he could not even roll his eyes. His palm, which he had thrust out, froze in midair. I told you I can't take out the senseless lotus. Why won't you listen? Bufang said faintly. The next moment, he flipped his hand, and a black wok appeared in Bufang's hand. Then, he waved the black wok fiercely. Boom! The wok smashed viciously into the immobilized Sword Demon clan expert's face. Everyone was stunned and sucked in a cold breath. The Sword Demon clan expert's eyes widened. He flew backward, blood gushing out of his mouth and nose. His body was about to be sent flying. However, a hand grabbed onto his lapel and pulled him back. The black wok grew larger in his eyes once again. Bam! 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 The black wok was swung as if it were light. Every time it struck out, it hit the expert's face accurately. Boom! A loud noise rang out. The last blow was thrown out. The expert from the Sword Demon clan was dumbfounded. His entire face swelled up. Blood gushed out of his mouth and nose. I can't believe I was struck dumb by a walk. Everyone was dumbfounded. They didn't even know what to say. Then, the experts from the other small worlds couldn't help but burst into laughter. The laughter was like a taunt, drilling into the nether prison experts' ears. It made their faces turn red and blue. At this moment, the nether prison experts' honor and disgrace were one. So, when one of them was insulted, they couldn't sit still. Bufang carried a black wok. His black hair fluttered, and his striped red and white vermilion robe fluttered. His face was indifferent as he looked at everyone present. That looked it startled the group of people who wanted to make a move. Boom! A loud noise rang out. A burly figure suddenly landed in front of Bufang, exuding a powerful aura. Jin Jiao stared at the nether prison experts with oppressive eyes. What? Do you want to cause trouble? Jin Jiao raised his hand, grabbing the handle of the corpse ghost soul sealing fan on his back, coldly glancing at the crowd. The nether prison experts froze instantly. The Sword Demon Clan's expert also got up from the ground, glaring at Bufang. Enough! Suddenly, an indifferent voice rang out. Then, a figure slowly walked out of the array. A domineering aura spread, suppressing Jin Jiao's aura. Leader! The nether prison experts all bowed respectfully to the man. Buzz, a buzzing sound rang out. That person took a step and appeared in front of the nether prison experts, facing Jin Jiao. This is the Nether Puppeteer Clan's expert of the older generation. He's the leader of the Nether Prison semi-final team. Someone recognized the expert's identity, sucking in a cold breath. It was a middle-aged man. His eyelids were half open, looking very tired. However, his identity made everyone present revere him. The Nether Puppeteer Clan ranked second among the 9 clans of Nether Prison. What's the matter? Let's fight in the arena. What's wrong with making a ruckus? Do you know that you're throwing Nether Prison's face? The middle-aged man said indifferently. Leader Lu Qing. He started it. The Sword Demon Clan's expert seemed a little indignant, opening his mouth to speak. Shut up. The middle-aged man suddenly raised his eyes, glancing at the Sword Demon Clan's expert. That expert's heart trembled, and he didn't say another word. I've already said that if there's any grudge, we should settle it in the semi-final. We, the Nether Prison, are the leader of many small worlds, and we should be friendly to our people. Do you understand? We can't let others laugh at us for being too domineering and unreasonable. The middle-aged man said. The Nether Prison contestants instantly stopped talking. Obviously, this middle-aged man's power made them not dare to be presumptuous. Jin Jiao coldly looked at Lu Qing, who was speaking with confidence and composure, the corner of his mouth twitching disdainfully. Hypocrite! Jin Jiao sneered. All right. Today's matter is our Nether Prison's fault. I apologize to this little brother. However, if we meet in the semi-final, we won't be so merciful. Lu Qing smiled warmly, glancing at Bufang. However, what he saw made him slightly dumbfounded. That was because he realized that Bufang's eyes were shining as he stared at him. That gaze. It made him feel uncomfortable all over. It was like the look of a predator looking at its prey. I'm not participating in the competition. Why are you looking at me like that? Besides, if I want to kill you, one finger is enough, however. He still felt uncomfortable because Bufang was staring at him, making his hair stand on end. Bufang, on the other hand, was very excited at this moment. An expert from the Nether Prison's Nether Puppeteer Clan. He finally met an expert from the Nether Prison's Nether Puppeteer Clan. Xiao Bai, your hope is here. Soon, Lu Qing left with the Nether Prison expert. Before the Sword Demon Clan's expert turned around, he stared at Bufang, his eyes full of killing intent. Of course, Bufang ignored him, still staring at Lu Qing. Zhang Xian, is that boy still staring at me? The corner of Lu Qing's mouth twitched as he asked the Sword Demon Clan's Zhang Xian. Zhang Xian froze for a moment, then nodded. That boy has been staring at Captain. Captain, are you old friends with that boy? Zhang Xian asked with a frown. Old friends my ass. Lu Cheng's face twitched, and his heart became more and more disgusted. He wished he could turn around and slap Bufang to death. He's giving me goosebumps. In the semi-final, when you meet that boy, don't show any mercy. Beat him to death. I suspect that kid might have some bad habits. Maybe he's taken a fancy to my peerless appearance. Lu Cheng's face twitched. The nether prison experts nodded, a little confused. Although they didn't know where Captain got his peerless face, if he said beat him to death, then beat him to death. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and slowly turned his head. In that instant, when she turned her head back, it was as if the flow of time and the vicissitudes of life. His eyes were a little uneasy, and when he met Bufang's gaze, his heart trembled. Are you crazy? Lu Cheng finally couldn't help but curse. Only after Lu Cheng and his group disappeared from his line of sight did Bufang retract his gaze reluctantly. Bufang rubbed his chin and fell into deep thought again. However, this time, he was not only thinking about how to get the 9-leaf acheron grass, but also how to get the nether puppet's heart from the nether puppet expert. Chapter 1280. Owner Boo, you really dared to hit him. That's an expert from the nether prison's sword demon clan. After Lu Cheng and the others were far away, Fa Wu came to Bufang's side and looked at Bufang in admiration. Previously, Zhang Xian's overbearing behavior had made many people feel indignant. His arrogance, which seemed to look down on everyone, made Fa Wu and the others very aggrieved. Originally, he thought that Bufang was going to suffer a calamity. He didn't expect that Bufang would turn the tables and beat Lu Cheng up. Moreover, it was the kind of beating that made Lu Cheng lose his temper. The way he swung the black wok made many people's eyes light up. He was indeed an expert who could pick the senseless lotus. He was really awesome. The Sword Demon clan ranks 5th among the 9 nether prison clans. They are extremely strong and good at using swords. Owner Boo has offended them, so you have to be careful in the semi-finals. Fa Wu reminded him in a serious tone. No one dared to underestimate nether prison experts. Even if they were from the 2nd echelon, they could still beat everyone present. Zhang Xian hasn't drawn his sword yet, Fa Wu said. Fa Wu knew that Bufang had killed the captain of the Winged Man Valley, a 2nd revolution little saint, but Zhang Xian was different. He was a nether prison expert, and when he was a 2nd revolution little saint, he was strong enough to kill the Winged Man Valley captain. Therefore, although Bufang had killed the Winged Man Valley captain, he couldn't be proud of it. Otherwise, he could easily be beaten like a dog when facing Zhang Xian. Fa Wu's words brought Bufang back to his senses. Bufang raised his eyes and glanced at Fa Wu. The Sword Demon clan? Ranked 5th? Can you tell me about the other rankings? Bufang asked. He really didn't know much about the 9 nether prison clans. However, among the 9 clans he knew, there was the Sword Demon clan, which he had met in God Vanishing Mountain. There were also the Nether Chef clan, the Shadow Demon clan, and the Horned Beast clan. The leg of lamb belonging to the great sage of the horned beasts had been roasted by Bufang. Of course, he also learned about the nether puppeteer bloodline from the system. As for the rest, Bufang didn't know. Fa Wu glanced at Bufang and opened his mouth, as if he didn't expect that Bufang didn't even know such common sense. The 9 clans of Nether Prison hold a ranking competition every 3 years, which is actually the Nether Prison Tournament of the Great Path. They are ranked according to their ranking in the tournament. Right now, the Fire Yaos are ranked 9th. Although they are ranked 9th, their strength is incomparably formidable. Their bodies contain unparalleled nether flames. Their might is boundless and their strength is formidable. Ranked 8th is the Horned Beast bloodline. This bloodline is mainly formed from ferocious beasts. They possess powerful ferocious beast inheritances and are equally powerful. Next are the Shadow Demon Clan, the Dark Nether Chef Clan, the Sword Demon Clan, the Beast Tamer Clan, the Tyrant Clan, the Nether Puppeteer Clan, and the mysterious Di Ting Clan, which ranks first. Fa Wu explained to Bufang. It was the first time that Bufang had learned the composition of the 9 clans of Nether Prison so systematically. The Beast Tamer Clan, the Tyrant Clan, and the Di Ting Clan? There seemed to be some doubt in Bufang's eyes. They are all very strong. The Beast Tamer Clan can control all beasts, and the Tyrant Clan has invincible fleshly bodies. Even the Vajra realm is a weak chicken in the eyes of the Tyrant Clan. As for the Di Ting Clan, it is too mysterious. It is the strongest clan in Nether Prison. Legend has it that there are only a few members of the Di Ting Clan, but each of them possesses heaven-defying talent. Fa Wu took a deep breath, his face extremely solemn. This time, there are no contestants from the top 4 clans in the second echelon, which gives us a chance. Bufang nodded, not fully understanding. The relationship between the 9 clans of Nether Prison was really somewhat complicated. Well, although Nether Prison is strong, you don't need to belittle yourselves. Just do your best, and you may not lose to them, Jin Jiao said. His eyes swept across all the contestants as he said this. The crowd nodded, but their morale was obviously not very high. Let's go to the center of the square, Jin Jiao said. Jin Jiao said, giving everyone a deep look. Then, he turned around. The group of people followed him, and soon came to the center of the square. There, the 10 contestants of Nether Prison were already standing. They seemed to have seen the contestants from the other small worlds, and their eyes were filled with arrogance. Some even raised their hands and slid them across their necks, smiling contemptuously. Their attitudes made the faces of the contestants from the other small worlds turn red. They were too arrogant. Through the light screen, many people felt aggrieved when they saw this scene. However, they were helpless. After all, Nether Prison had the capital to be arrogant. When the semi-finals began, they would soon understand how big the gap between them and the Nether Prison experts was. Zhang Xian of the Sword Demon Clan stared coldly at Bufang. However, Bufang ignored him, craned his neck, and searched among the Nether Prison experts. Finally, his eyes fell on Lu Qing. The scene made the corner of Zhang Xian's mouth twitch violently. Is what Lu Qing said true? Does this boy really have some strange hobbies? Because this was Earth Prison's home ground, the rules were announced by an Earth Prison expert. Standing in the center of the square, Jin Jiao glanced across the crowd and rested his eyes on the crowd. He took a deep breath and slowly said, "The contestants from Nether Prison have arrived. Now, I'll announce the rules of the semi-finals of the individual competition. This time, the semi-finals of the individual competition will not be held in a single arena. The venue will be outside Acheron town. The competition will be cruel, so listen carefully. Due to the deaths of experts who qualified for the individual competition in the previous team competition, the number of people who died will be replaced by those ranked lower, making up a total of 50 people. There are 10 jade plates hidden around Yellow Springs town. Each jade plate has a number drawn on it, from 1 to 10. The number on the jade plate is your ranking in the semifinals. If you want a better ranking, try your best to fight for the jade plate corresponding to your ranking. Each person can only have 1 jade plate. The competition will last for 1 day. After 1 day, a bell will ring to signal the end of the competition. Once the competition is over, the jade plate you have will represent your ranking. Those who don't have a jade plate will be eliminated. Jin Jiao said, glancing at the crowd. As soon as the rules were announced, an uproar broke out, and everyone's eyes narrowed. This rule was very meaningful, and it was extremely cruel. Let everyone fight for the jade plates. Once there was a fight, there would definitely be killing. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was cruel. After understanding the rules, everyone took a deep breath. The nether prison experts narrowed their eyes, and many of them grinned. There was a lot of competition between them. Our nether prison contestants can join forces first and snatch all the jade plates. Then, we can compete for the ranking, Zhang Xian said to the nether prison contestants. Everyone burst into laughter. That was the principle. Their words made the faces of the contestants from the other small worlds change dramatically. The nether prison experts didn't take them seriously at all. To be honest, this rule was really not in their favor. The corners of Jin Jiao's mouth rose slightly. This rule was not that simple. When the time came, these little fellows would understand. Isn't the individual competition a challenge tournament? The competition will be held around Acheron town. Bu Fang's eyes lit up, and he suddenly had an idea. Acheron town was not far from the Acheron Valley. When the time came, he could go there and see if he could get a 9-leaf Acheron grass. Well, the rules have been announced. Now everyone has 2 hours to rest. After 2 hours, the town gate will open and the competition will begin. Jin Jiao said. As soon as he finished speaking, the contestants began to adjust their state of mind. In the surrounding small worlds, all of them had light screens projecting images of the matches. When the contestants learned the rules, they all felt a little disappointed. Many people felt that, this time, the semi-finals would once again become the stage for the nether prison experts. Rumble. In the void, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Then, a figure tore through the sky, speeding over with a domineering aura. It was a skeleton wearing golden armor, and there were blue ghostly flames dancing in its eye sockets. On its back were 2 golden spears. The tips of the spears were extremely sharp, glowing with a cold light. The bearer of the senseless lotus, the skeleton opened its mouth and uttered a clear syllable. The skeleton raised its palm. With a wave of fluctuation, a cluster of blue ghost flames emerged above it. Vaguely, an image emerged in the ghost flames, turning into Bu Fang's face. Bam! The skeleton clenched its fist, crushing the blue flame. With a clanging sound, the golden armor collided, and the skeleton immediately staggered and flew away at high speed. Below it was the surging blood-colored Acheron River. Not only the skeleton experts of the Cave of the Fallen Gods, but also the experts of the Black Temple and many Earth prison forces were rushing to Acheron town. It was as if a cluster of dark clouds was rapidly approaching Acheron town. Swish, a beam of holy light streaked across the void and landed on the ground. His figure was extremely elegant, and his blonde hair fluttered in the wind. Looking at the surging Acheron River, the man twitched his mouth. Filthy. It's really the filthy Acheron River, the winged man said. I should have been on vacation on the island, enjoying beautiful women and fine wine. Why did I come to this filthy place? The man sighed. The wings on his back flapped, and white feathers fell to the ground. Then, he grabbed a stone on the ground and threw it. The stone bounced rapidly across the surface of the Acheron River. When the stone sank to the bottom of the river, the winged man valley expert also flapped his wings, soared into the sky, and disappeared. Dong! 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 The sound of bells rang. At the gate of Acheron town, one expert after another stood at the gate. Every single one of them was fully equipped and ready to set out, and they possessed a magnificent, imposing manner. All of them had adjusted their condition to the limit. The nether prison expert, on the other hand, looked disdainfully at the contestants from the other small worlds and sneered from time to time. Remember, whoever holds the jade plate will advance to the next round, Jin Jiao said, looking at the crowd. Now, the semi-finals of the individual competition of the Netherworld's Tournament of the Great Path. It begins now. As soon as his voice faded away in front of the gate of Acheron town, one expert after another burst out with a wild and domineering aura. The ground beneath each expert's feet cracked, and gravel flew in all directions. He turned into a shooting star and sped away. Like a ferocious beast, he rushed straight out. Standing at the gate, Bufang looked at Lu Qing, who stood motionless with his hands clasped behind his back. He felt a pang of regret in his heart. I can't believe this guy isn't participating in the competition. That way, I won't be able to get the puppet's heart. With a regretful look in his eyes, Bufang gave Lu Qing a deep look, then strode out of the town with his hands clasped behind his back. Lu Qing's hair stood on end when he saw Bufang's last look. The skin on his face twitched and he snorted. As soon as Bufang walked out of the town, his figure came to a halt. In the distance, the group of nether prison experts stood still and looked playfully at Bufang, who walked out of the town. Zhang Xian held a heavy sword in his hand and fixed his eyes on Bufang. Then, he suddenly raised the heavy sword in his hand and pointed it at Bufang, revealing a cruel smile. The next moment, the nether prison experts turned and left. There was no doubt that they were threatening Bufang. However, they didn't strike immediately. They planned to find all the jade plates and put them in the hands of the nether prison experts before they began to kill. At that time, the contestants from the other small worlds, including this boy, would become their target. Of course, Zhang Xian's killing intent toward Bufang was already surging in his heart. Just as the competition began, Bufang and his companions walked out of Acheron town in the sky. Streams of light also shot over. They fell like shooting stars toward Bufang. One after another, they were filled with greed and killing intent. Chapter 1281. Oh! Lu Qing stood in front of Acheron town with his hands clasped behind his back. He narrowed his eyes and looked up into the sky. As he looked at the beams of light shooting across the sky, his eyes suddenly flashed. The forbidden lands of Earth Prison, the skeletons of the Cave of the Fallen Gods, and the assassins of the Black Temple. As the rumors say, these forbidden lands can't sit still for the senseless lotus. Lu Qing murmured. Then, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. The forbidden lands of Nether Prison have been secretly breached by the lords. Now, these forbidden lands will soon become their targets. After so many years, it's time for the Netherworld to be unified. Once Earth Prison is unified, the surrounding worlds will not be far from submitting. At that time, the Netherworld will turn into a great world and step onto the stage of the great worlds, and Nether Prison will be the center of this new great world. How great would that be? There seemed to be a flash of hope in Lu Qing's eyes, and a faint smile came over his face. Of course, it was not that easy to breach Earth Prison. After all, there was a reason why the Netherworld had not managed to do so for so many years. How many jade plates have we found? Zhang Xian grabbed the jade plate in his hand, which had the number 5 written on it. He frowned. He did not like the number 5 very much. The 6th one, Lu Yang, the Nether Chef clan expert, said, looking at Zhang Xian. It seems to be a little slower than expected. If this goes on, it's very likely that the other jade plates will be taken by those trash. Zhang Xian put the jade plate away with a solemn look in his eyes. Then let's kill them all, said the Fire Demon clan expert, grinning as if there was lava bubbling under his skin. He even spat out a ball of flame from his mouth. Did we find the jade plate for the first place? Zhang Xian asked. Of all the people present, Zhang Xian was the strongest, so he was naturally the leader. Although they would all compete with each other later, they were now in the same camp. There were a total of 10 jade plates, but only 6 had been collected so far. The efficiency was far beyond Zhang Xian and the others' expectations. The main reason was that these jade plates were placed in very strange places. Some were even on cliffs, and some were even in spirit beasts' nests. All of these increased the difficulty of obtaining them. Buzz in the sky, a ray of light dissipated again. This meant that the last jade plate had been obtained by someone else. The Nether Prison camp had obtained 6 jade plates, and the remaining 4 were taken by experts from other small worlds. Zhang Xian stood up and smoothed out the creases in his clothes. He looked into the distance indifferently. Very good. It seems like our massacre will have to be brought forward, Zhang Xian said. His voice was filled with dense killing intent. When the nether prison experts heard that, they all screamed excitedly. The fire demons were spurting flames all over their bodies, making them scorching hot and bright. It's finally time for the massacre. I've long been annoyed by those ants from the other small worlds, roared the experts of the fire demon clan. Boom, boom, boom. A rumbling sound rang out. The next moment, the 10 nether prison experts all turned into streams of light and sped away. Bufang put his hands behind his back. He held a jade plate in his hand. However, on his shoulder, Little Who rolled his cute eyes and held a jade plate in his little paw. Each person could only get 1 jade plate. Bufang couldn't hold 2 at the same time. However, he could let Little Who hold the other plate so that each person could get 1 plate. This was what Bufang had discovered on a whim. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched slightly. He glanced at the dense forest behind him, then continued forward with Little Who. Soon, they were in the dense forest. Following the route in his memory, he flew toward a certain location. The rule of the semifinals was exactly what he wanted. He wanted to get the 9-leaf acheron grass. If he went in carelessly, it might be really difficult for him to get it. However, if he had the help of others, he might have a chance to get it. With a swoosh, Bufang rushed out of the forest. His field of vision suddenly became empty. In the distance, there was an intersection of a huge valley. At the intersection, there were many large rocks standing there. Among the rocks, Bufang saw 2 familiar figures, stone statue ghost kings. We meet again. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched. He mumbled softly. The stone statue ghost king. It was the great sage Acheron's pet. It was responsible for guarding the acheron grass, as well as the existence at the intersection of the valley. It was very strong. Back then, Bufang didn't fight the stone statue ghost king head-on. Instead, he used a clever method to barge in. Hence, he wasn't too clear about the stone statue ghost king's strength. However, since it could be made by the great sage Acheron to guard the entrance, its strength was certainly not weak. Moreover, in the valley, there was an extremely powerful torch dragon. That torch dragon had the true divine dragon's bloodline, and its strength was extremely formidable back then. Only the Lord Go could suppress it. When Hades' era encountered the torch dragon, he could only turn around and run. However, back then, Hades' era's strength wasn't too strong. Hence, Bufang wasn't very clear about the torch dragon's cultivation base. Swish, a gust of wind blew over. In that valley, strands of acheron grass swayed, stirring up thick essence energy. Bufang's eyes shone as he watched. The acheron grass was divided into 9 leaves. With each additional leaf, the acheron grass's grade would increase by 1 level. The 6-leaf acheron grass was very difficult to grow artificially. As for the top-grade acheron grass, the 9-leaf acheron grass, it was a heavenly treasure that was nourished by heaven and earth. Basically, it couldn't be cultivated artificially. Hence, it was treasured by the great sage Acheron. And this time, Bufang's target was the 9-leaf acheron grass. If he wanted to brew the peerless wine, he had to use the 9-leaf acheron grass. He already had the 9-petal flower of helplessness. Now, with the addition of the 9-leaf acheron grass, the acheron wine of helplessness brewed would definitely be incomparably delicious. Thinking of this, Bufang couldn't help but salivate, licking his lips. However, the stone statue ghost king was guarding the entrance. Then I can only use the old method. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched and his heart moved. Last time, Bufang cooked the stonewalk fish, which caused the stone statue ghost kings to fight each other. In the end, they shattered each other. This time, Bufang planned to use the same trick again. In Bufang's opinion, the stone statue ghost king should be fooled again. After all, if Bufang's judgment wasn't wrong, this stone statue ghost king, must be a real glutton. Since it was a glutton, it would be easy to deal with it. Little Hu stood on Bufang's shoulder, his claws holding the jade plate. His small eyes rolled and his two tails swayed on his butt. Still cooking the stone wok fish? Bufang muttered to himself. No, what if these two stone statue ghost kings learn to be smart and don't fall for it? So, this time, I'd better choose a new dish. Bufang squinted, rubbing his chin and nodding. Little Hu looked at Bufang's appearance, holding the jade plate in his mouth. Then, he imitated Bufang, using his claws to rub his chin and nod. Bufang was amused, rubbing Little Hu's head. His mind flickered. He entered the heaven and earth farmland. He found Nyo Han-san and asked for a piece of good, fat beef. Shortly after, the heaven and earth farmland's indignant mooing echoed. Nyo Han-san happily ran from a distance with a piece of beef, handing it to Bufang. Bufang looked at Nyo Han-san with a strange look. However, Bufang didn't know much about it. It was Nyo Hansen's private business, and he didn't need to care. Thus, Bufang left the heaven and earth farmland. Little Hu held the jade plate in his mouth. With a grunt, he jumped far away, his big eyes gazing at Bufang. Bufang's mind flickered. The white tiger heaven stove emerged, pounding on the ground. The dragon bone kitchen knife and the black turtle constellation wok were ready. Ingredients were taken out by Bufang, placed on the stove, and washed with Heavenly Alps spirit spring water. This time, there weren't many ingredients. However, they were all special. They weren't ordinary ingredients. In this dish, purple garlic was a must, along with Sun Mother ginger. Next was the fat beef, and the green and red exploding flame pepper. This exploding flame pepper was the result of Nyo Hansen's hybridization. Besides these, there was another ingredient. It was a kind of mushroom. In Bufang's eyes, this kind of mushroom was very similar to the enoki mushroom in his previous life. However, compared to the enoki mushroom, this mushroom's spirit energy was incomparably majestic, and its quality wasn't low. Bufang continued to call it the enoki mushroom. Opening his mouth, a white flame instantly drilled out, drilling under the white tiger heaven stove. The scorching heat instantly burst out, causing the entire white tiger heaven stove to emit a scorching aura. The black turtle constellation wok contained the spring of life, which quickly boiled. Bufang placed the enoki mushroom inside, boiling it until it was cooked. Then, he blanched it, placing it in a blue and white porcelain bowl. Sizzle, adding oil, he waited until the oil temperature rose. Then, Bufang added the diced purple garlic and Sun Mother ginger into the wok. He began to stir-fry. Sizzle! The sound of stir-frying resounded unceasingly. A thick aroma instantly spread, drilling into the nostrils. Little Hu squinted in the distance, holding a jade plate in his mouth. His nostrils couldn't help but twitch. The smell of the purple garlic was really fragrant. After stir-frying, Bufang took out a small jar made of blue and white porcelain. The jar wasn't big and its mouth was tightly stuffed. Finally, it's useful. Bufang looked at the jar, his eyes flashing with excitement. This is the yellow chili sauce I made in my spare time in the heaven and earth farmland. It's made from a kind of yellow chili that grows in the farmland. Although the taste isn't as good as the abyssal chili sauce, it's necessary to make this dish. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched. This chili sauce was incomparably fragrant and spicy. More importantly, it also had a sour taste. This sour taste was the essence of this chili sauce. And this dish, without this essence, it couldn't be used. He scooped out a spoonful of yellow chili sauce and poured it into the wok. Instantly, the sound of hot oil splashing rang out. An even more majestic, spicy aroma condensed. Sizzle! 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 After adding the yellow chili, Bufang began to stir the wok. He kept stir-frying, creating a fragrant aroma. Thud in the distance, Foxy's mouth was wide open, and the jade plate she was holding in her mouth fell to the ground. Her saliva flowed freely from her mouth. Buzz, this noise naturally attracted Bufang's attention. Little Hu, hold it in your mouth. Be good. Later, I'll let you taste the deliciousness of this dish. When Bufang saw Little Hu's greedy face, he couldn't help but raise his lips. Little Hu hurried to pick up the jade plate on the ground, nodding his head repeatedly. In the distance, Zhang Xian's sword swept across, and a wandering soul realm expert was immediately cut in half. A strong smell of blood filled the air. I sensed the aura of a jade plate. It suddenly emerged in that direction. The fire demon's eyes narrowed as he looked in the direction where Bufang was cooking. Zhang Xian grabbed a jade plate from the corpse and shook it. The 7th jade plate. There are 3 left, and one of them is the first one. Zhang Xian said. That bald donkey has 1 jade plate. I guess the other 2 should be with that stinky chef from the Heaven Chief realm. A man with 3 black horns on his head said coldly. Let's go. It's time to kill this stinky chef. Let's go. It's time to kill this reckless stinky chef, Zhang Xian said coldly, shouldering his heavy sword. The next moment, one nether prison expert after another sped toward the spot where he had just appeared. Swish, the sauce was stir-fried, and a strong aroma filled the air. Although this yellow chili was not as pure as the abyssal chili sauce, it was made by Bufang himself, and it tasted good. It was very suitable as a seasoning for specific dishes. Although the abyssal chili sauce was good, it had its limitations. Some dishes couldn't use it. For example, if Bufang used the abyssal chili sauce in the dish he was cooking this time, the taste would definitely not be as good as the yellow chili sauce. He poured the spring of life into the wok. It washed away the sauce. The orange-yellow soup was rolling and boiling. He added a crystal fruit of life. When the crystal fruit entered the wok, it melted instantly, and a majestic spirit essence spread out in the wok. He covered the wok and let the soup boil. Bufang took the fat beef. The beef was perfect, and the lines on it were like exquisite works of art. Bufang couldn't help but grin when he saw it. He flipped the dragon bone kitchen knife. Then, the knife seemed to cut down from the sky. It was a knife technique, cutting immortal into pieces. Instantly, the fat beef was cut into pieces. After cutting the fat beef, Bufang's mind flickered. He raised his head, looking into the distance. There, a terrifying murderous aura was sweeping over. Bufang's eyes couldn't help but narrow, as expected. The aura that appeared for a brief moment was still discovered? Anyway, it's good that you're here. I was worried that you wouldn't come. Bufang exhaled. Then, he put the cut beef into the wok. Chapter 1282. He seemed to be wondering what that thing was. Roar. That punch smashed into the bridge of his nose. There was a thin figure standing there, and on the back of the figure, there was a weak little fox lying on it. It was as if a bottle of flavors had been knocked over. Sourness, sweetness, bitterness, and spiciness flooded his heart at the same time. He grabbed the jade plate, which had a number written on it. 9. A terrifying gust of wind suddenly burst out. That guy in the bronze palace was really despicable. He didn't even know that he shouldn't hit someone in the face. He poured thin slices of fat beef into the wok. The little huli looked at the sour and fat beef. His mouth opened again, drool flowing unceasingly. The great sage Acheron stopped rubbing his face. An expert from the nether prison shouted excitedly. Bufang said softly. Rubble fell all over the ground. In the valley, he took out a huge blue and white porcelain bowl. Then, he took out a jar. He rubbed the little fellow. However, no matter how sour it was, the little fellow kept chewing, swallowing it in one gulp. It couldn't wait to cry out. There was such a thing? The sour and spicy taste exploded. Pieces of fat beef floated on the surface of the soup. The beef was tender and exquisite, and steam constantly rose from the meat. Zhang Xian's mind flickered. Bufang looked at the little huli's appearance, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. A sour taste that made his whole body shiver instantly spread out from his mouth. Terrifying rumbling sounds echoed unceasingly. Terrifying waves of energy swept out, and the ground seemed to explode. Zhang Xian froze. It caused the heat on the soup to dissipate. Do it! Buzz! There was a loud bang. The gargoyle kings looked at each other. The enoki mushroom added to the dish's beauty, making it even more tempting. Or did he think that he was safe after getting the jade plate, so he cooked to celebrate? That kind of deep familiarity. It melted into the soup. It was the problem of uneven distribution, and it was also the problem of you eating an extra piece of my meat. He added a few drops of brown fruit vinegar, which had a sour taste. Perfect. The joy they shared now, who knew if they would still be able to share it later. The nether prison experts looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. Then, Bufang's mental force surged. Zhang Xian pondered. As a genius of the Nether Chef clan, cooking was his forte, but he couldn't trigger 8 lightning punishments, even he couldn't. Then, the true energy under his feet burst forth, and his figure instantly turned into a stream of light, shooting forward at high speed, leaving behind a trail of afterimages. A faint sour smell immediately spread out, causing Bufang's brows to involuntarily twitch. Plop! Then, he turned off the fire. In the next moment, his eyes shone brightly. It seemed even more delicious. Because it was stained with the color of the soup, it had a bright yellow luster and looked extremely delicious. The jade plate was tossed up, and the fox swung its tail, slamming it onto the jade plate. Pring pring, the nether prison experts in the distance were dumbfounded. At that moment, he seemed to hear the sound of his nose breaking. Then, his eyes seemed to shoot fire. The fat beef entered his mouth. He scooped out the dish from the black turtle constellation wok and poured it into a blue and white porcelain bowl. Thick steam immediately rose. The 2 stone statue ghost kings stood up at the same time, roaring at each other. Then, the 2 stone statue ghost kings squatted in front of the blue and white porcelain bowl, looking at each other. That's right. This time, Bufang wanted to cook this dish. There was a messy feeling in the wind. Because of the yellow chili sauce, the soup had a bright yellow luster. Bufang took a deep breath. The nether prison experts were dumbstruck. His figure flew backward, smashed in the distance, and rolled several times. Swish! Because the smell of the yellow chili was gushing over, the spicy fragrance, coupled with the faint sour taste, stimulated his taste buds, causing his mouth to salivate uncontrollably. It was simply impossible to suppress. He raised his hand, pointing at Zhang Xian's body. Bufang also used his body to resist the lightning bolt. He continued to cook for a while. It's that blind spirit beast again, crossing the tribulation in this great sage's territory, found it. The jade plate is over there, in the valley. Bufang gently blew at it. Rubbing his face, the great sage Acheron said, a little depressed. Evil creature, die for me. Holding the 9-leaf Acheron grass between his fingers, the great sage Acheron took a step and came to the entrance of the valley. Is it the chef from the Heaven Chief realm who is cooking? Gulp, gulp. The fat beef with sour soup steadily landed between the 2 stone statue ghost kings, 2 evil creatures. After shivering, he felt a comfortable feeling that made him salivate. Liu Yang of the Nether Chef clan was very familiar with this lightning punishment. What kind of idiots did he raise? Zhang Xian's nose suffered again. All right, don't worry. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bufang looked at Zhang Xian in the distance and twitched the corner of his mouth. The nether prison experts immediately came out of it. Boom. After blowing on it, Bufang handed the fat beef to Little Hu. On Zhang Xian's body, a terrible sword intent surged, and his whole body seemed to turn into a beam of sword light. As the fragrant Acheron helplessness wine entered the wok, a rich aroma filled the air, making the taste of the soup even richer. Strands of it were placed on the wok, presenting a beautiful scene. However, the void was torn apart. Young Bufang picked up a blue and white porcelain spoon and scooped up a spoonful of soup. Then, he took out a pair of chopsticks and picked up a piece of fat beef. This dish would definitely be delicious. Bufang couldn't help but swallow his saliva during the cooking process. The boiling soup in the wok gradually fell silent. Rustling noises came from the trees in the distance. "I'll take one, and you take another." At this moment, it was completely silent. The sharp-eyed Bufang even saw a drop of tear at the corner of Little Hu's eye. Her small mouth began to move. The boiling gravy instantly swallowed up the fat beef. Zhang Xian said coldly, "Sure enough, the sour taste of the chili sauce is a little lacking. Go. Let's go and see what that kid is up to." Slurp. Squeak. This was also the fruit vinegar brewed by Bufang. It tasted extremely sour. After dropping it into the boiling wok, it disappeared without a trace. Was it crying because of the sourness? He placed the blanched enoki mushroom inside. The two stone statue ghost kings were smashed together. "Little Hu, throw the jade plate between those two big guys." The two stone statue ghost kings immediately shared the food happily. Zhang Xian's mind suddenly flickered. In the distance, the exclamations of the nether prison experts rang out. Great Sage Acheron laid on the bed, taking out a 9-leaf acheron grass, fiddling with it. So familiar! That feeling made Bufang's eyes brighten. Great Sage Acheron was lying on the bed, rubbing his swollen face. Suddenly, he narrowed his eyes, looking at the valley in the distance. Of course, Bufang couldn't help but pick up a piece of beef and put it in his mouth. Zhang Xian muttered. This taste, this feeling, the rolling steam, seemed to turn into a demonic bull that kept mooing. The nether prison experts landed, looking at the slowly dispersing lightning punishment in the sky, their faces solemn. Smelling this aroma, his mouth couldn't help but salivate. Soon, the meaty aroma spread, attacking Bufang's mouth and nose. This little fellow. This aroma was similar to the stone wok fish, but different. Not long after, a lot of foam appeared on the surface of the soup. Suddenly, it crossed the area under the stone statue ghost king's jurisdiction, rushing into the valley. Bufang furrowed his brows. He raised his head, looking into the distance. "It's you! See how this father will beat this stone statue ghost king." The moment he swallowed it, feeling the soft and tender beef flowing down his throat into his stomach, the Little Hu felt his entire body become transparent. His eyes turned red and his vision blurred. It was as if he saw the setting sun, and a drop of tear was about to fall. The two stone statue ghost kings had actually started to fight. Bufang poured the soup from the porcelain spoon into his mouth. A moment later, the two stone statue ghost kings stared at the jade plate. "I'll take one piece and you take the other." Then, a group of people shot out once again. In their field of vision, Bufang watched from a distance. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. That jade plate was the one they had been looking for. In the distance, the nether prison experts were dumbstruck. These two retards, RF** King broken again? Zhang Xian was dumbstruck, lightning bolts surged. "It's okay. It's just an ordinary dish with lightning punishment." However, this dish doesn't seem ordinary. It has actually reached 8 lightning punishments. That feeling? Awesome. Cooking in such a position? In the distance, Bufang's figure had long disappeared. It was an extremely appetizing dish that made people unable to stop eating. Soon, the air. He had carefully selected the best fat of the demonic cow and matched it with the exclusive yellow chili sauce. He had used a unique cooking method and a special secret recipe. Slurp. Roar! The jade plate fell into her claws and she grabbed it. She scooped another spoonful of soup, blowing away the steam, then poured it into her mouth. Walking to the gravel, she lifted her feet, stomping on it to vent her anger. It was a jade plate ranked at the bottom. Zhang Xian froze, turning his head to look. The two fists enlarged in his eyes once again. The ground shook violently. He took out the acheron of helplessness wine. Little Hu's big eyes brightened. Then, she squeaked. From a distance, she saw Zhang Xian stomping on the stone statue ghost kings on the ground. Then, she saw a giant fist made of stone, enlarging in front of her eyes. Bufang gently exhaled. Apparently, the sour taste of the beef soup was irritated. Bolts of lightning quickly smashed down. In the sky, why were the two stone statue ghost kings roaring at each other? The leaves rustled. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched. Without a doubt, they chose to ignore the stone statue ghost kings. They looked at the sour stewed beef on the ground, then at the shattered stone statue ghost king, Little Hu's eyes were filled with reluctance. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at the blue and white porcelain bowl. The stone statue ghost king reached out its stone fingers, picking up a piece of beef and shoving it into its mouth. Holding the heavy sword, it covered its nose and got up. Then, it roared hoarsely. Under the control of Bufang's mental force, the bowl of beef soup in his hand slowly flew toward the center of the two stone statue ghost kings. If Bufang were here, he would find that the power of the two stone statue ghost kings had increased again. Bufang rubbed Little Hu's head, ignoring the latter's pitiful eyes, which wanted to be together again. With a muffled thud, Zhang Xian fell on the ground. "Go to hell, you filthy animal!" Great Sage Acheron was so angry. Rumble! Hiss! Hiss! The horned beast clan's expert sniff. All of a sudden, he smelled a thick aroma. His face changed. "Forget it. With this great sage's current image, I can't show up easily. I'll spare that little guy." Frowning, Zhang Xian exhaled. It wasn't the first jade plate. King got tricked? Zhang Xian's eyes focused, and a terrifying murderous aura swept out. After adding the beef soup, it began to boil. Bufang looked at Little Hu's impatient face. He couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth, rubbing the latter's head. Crossing the tribulation? It was the same old method, and it was still the same familiar operation. What was going on? Little Hu's eyes narrowed. The fox fur on his body stood on end, shivering unceasingly. Zhang Xian was enraged. The stone statue ghost king's eyes instantly shot out bright light. Little Hu opened his mouth, swallowing the beef soup in one gulp. Bufang looked at Little Hu, saying. Zhang Xian crawled up from the ground. His face was covered in blood. When he saw the broken pieces of the stone statue ghost kings on the ground, he burst out laughing. Sour beef soup. He took a deep breath, and a satisfied look appeared on his face. The jade plate turned into a beautiful arc, falling in the middle of the stone statue ghost kings. Bufang picked up Little Hu, placing him on his shoulder. After carefully removing the foam, Zhang Xian became even more enraged. Zhang Xian became even more furious. Did that brat think that two stone statue ghost kings could ambush him? The sour smell instantly spread out, causing Bufang's entire body to shiver. Zhang Xian's eyes focused, locking on the jade plate not far from the stone statue ghost kings. The falling object made the eyes of the two stone statue ghost kings brighten. The sword energy seemed to be stuck. Then, his figure turned into a jet of light shooting out. In just a blink of an eye, he landed beside the stone statue ghost kings. The two stone statue ghost kings looked at each other, their eyes sharpening. The thunderclap there caught his attention. The result of the fight was, the two gargoyle kings were happily eating and didn't notice that someone had entered. "All right, you just need to taste it. I'll make more for you next time. Today, this sour beef soup has its uses." Beads of sweat seemed to be seeping out from his nose. Swoosh. Fortunately, this jade plate was made of special materials. It was incomparably sturdy, so it wasn't crushed by the stone statue ghost king's stomp. In his spirit sea, his divine sense spread out. Bam! One of the stone statue ghostly kings even lifted its foot and stomped down. Boom! However, before Zhang Xian's sword could slash, the two stone statue ghost kings turned their heads, roaring fiercely. The jade plate in his hand fell to the ground. What's that smell? It smells so good. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.